Introduction. Let's go where the fish are. Let's define bass, a game fish that is tough to catch and is a natural predator. Bass are the most commonly sought-after game fish. They are the catch of many aspiring anglers. Hooking bass more often and consistently means having a proactive approach and plan. Stacking the odd in your favor while enjoying the process is what this book is all about. So let's get started. Small changes in your thinking can lead to successful bass fishing. You'll need to think like the hunter the bass is to understand him. You must observe and study to learn and utilize its natural habits, patterns, and preferences while strategizing and developing your angling habits. You will no doubt experience your own fish stories and hopefully you'll be able to share them, but with none being too tall. You will also learn a lot from the ones that get away. That's the beauty of the sport. There's always something new to learn. Bass have a great reputation for being strong-minded and elusive. Anglers all around find bass to be the most challenging and elusively hard to catch, coming in all shapes, sizes, and classes. Regardless of where you are fishing, special condition or situation, it rings true. Bass fishing is very satisfying. It challenges you and rewards you. You will experience numerous hours of great pleasure. We give you tips and ideas here, to which you can add your own. So prepare yourself for victory. The big one is just around the splashy corner. Working in combination, there are various aspects of this sport that include art and science in the pursuit of the bass. Contributing to the eventual and consistent success are synergy and strategy. The lure, equipment, sight, and skill, whether it is dusk or dawn, shallow or deep waters, fresh or salt water, doesn't really matter. Both the novice and beginner are encouraged to read this book. Find the exhilaration of bass fishing. It's a journey, so enjoy. It's a discovery, so enjoy the learning as well. Being observant and respectful of nature means you need to learn the habits and patterns of bass. Regardless of what type of fishing you're practicing, what type of bait you're using, or what type of water you're fishing, use it all for a successful journey. Bass fishing is the most popular type of fishing in this country. Because of convenience and mobility in society today, the largemouth, smallmouth, striped, spotted, and black bass are always within reach and probably less than a day's travel time. Bass are small and calculating. They can make decisions based on their perception. Their survival instinct is strong, and they're unpredictable. Scientists have studied and have shown that these fish instinctively determine the minimal energy required to pursue prey and determine whether it is worth the return. We'll have to outsmart them to catch them. And the prize in the battle plan, which is comprised of the basics, the strategies, the allure, and the techniques. Bass are the ultimate game fish, providing the angler with a challenge in epic proportions. Chapter 1. Just the basics. An overview. All insider secrets seem to revolve around one particular rule: understanding the bass. This means understanding every concept of the fish, including life cycle, feeding preferences, patterns, and even habits. You should also consider the ecological system within which the bass lives, and where they sit in the food chain. Your equipment, tools, and surroundings, and your knowledge base with regard to these specific details will allow you to optimize your bass fishing adventure. This sport requires passion. It is both science and an unfolding form of art, appealing to young and old from various walks of life. Bass fishing doesn't require a particular standing on the amateur to professional spectrum, and doesn't differentiate financial or social class. The event's outcome is up to you and how much you want to put into the effort. In looking at the bass in its natural habitat, we can gather certain facts. Bass will seek protective cover and often find it among rocks, stumps, and weeds. They are on a continuous prowl for prey and frequently nibble casually. Bass do have specific feeding habits and needs. Being familiar with the specific habits of the type of bass you're fishing for is important information to consider. Let's take a look at another way that bass are superior. They have an inflatable breathing bladder that retains every ounce of air it takes in. This allows the bass to swim at varying water levels, and coupled with their tail power, increases their speed and agility. Bass can reach great depths when other factors are in their favor. Things such as the time of day, amount of sunlight, noise, and vibration all impact the bass's maneuverability within its watery kingdom. If you ask 7 different people where the fish might be, you'll inevitably get 7 different answers. Each answer will be based on their personal opinion, as well as the experiences they've encountered with places, times, and scientific fact. Basically, it's as easy as knowing the habitat and what might exist and thrive in that environment to gain more enjoyment. And, of course, fish. Look at the water temperature, oxygen replenishment opportunities, and patterns of fish movement in the water. Feeding habits will also dictate whether you'll opt to use live or artificial bait. Some anglers believe smallmouth bass prefer crawfish, so it only makes sense that areas of abundant crawfish will more than likely have an abundance of smallmouth bass. This type of information can also be obtained by examining the stomach contents of the fish you catch and clean. Aptitude, attitude, and self-confidence are also keys in outwitting the cunning bass. Because of their elusive behavior, you'll need every piece of knowledge and trickery at your disposal. Don't let the low-yield days get the best of you. They happen to every angler out there. You'll get back on track soon enough and forget about the slow or no-fish days. There isn't anything that can guarantee higher bass catches. The only factor is persistence and commitment in your venture. Despite conditions, process, and eventual outcomes, you'll need to chalk it all up to experience. Learn, share, and grow in your confidence and understanding of the bass, tools, equipment, and experience. You'll soon grow as a knowledgeable angler. Skill is something that can be obtained only through hard work and experience. Improving your ability requires target precision, placing the lure exactly where it needs to be. If you can't make it to your favorite fishing spot, practice casting plugs in your yard or at the park. Just as everything else, you'll only get better with time and practice. Consistency is the key. If you find yourself becoming discouraged or contemplating your end to the journey, take a step back and regroup. You'll save yourself a lot of discomfort by simply walking away for a period of time and thinking about your strategy for your next engagement. Look at the environment and the conditions. It could be as simple as trying again at a later time the same day, or planning an entirely different day to try again. The attitude you choose to reflect is up to you. You have the power to change strategies, spots, or tools. The power is yours. Never forget that, like us, bass are creatures of comfort. This is valuable information to any angler. We want it, when we want it, how we want it. Bass feel the same way. Our hierarchy of needs consists of food, shelter, and well-being. Bass are no different, so you absolutely need to acquire a basic knowledge of how their needs are met in these areas. This is the advantage you have over this elusive creature. Your brain is bigger and holds more knowledge. Predictions and hints will include stimuli, patterns, or routines of the bass. Develop those skills that allow you to read and quickly size up your opponent. Practice these to the point where your ability is to take in all of the information you need at a glance. The more you practice this, the more it will become second nature to you, and you'll soon forget the time you had to think about such things. It won't be long until you know the bass, as well as the bass know each other. Being familiar with the places bass feel secure and enjoy swimming in is critical to your fishing success. Take a look around the environment the bass seem to be present in. Pay attention to waterbeds, trees and stumps, plants and weeds, contours and structure, travel routes and passages. All of these things play an important part in the world of the bass. Many knowledgeable anglers know what they know by the same way that you come to know what you know. They studied and observed and learned. The information they have is no longer considered a hunch or chance. It's concrete knowledge based on their study of the predator and its environment. It is in this way that the hunter becomes the hunted. It is you against the bass, and your odds have been increased in this venture. Chapter 2: What you need and when you need it. Another key to consistent success is having the right equipment as well as knowing how and when to best utilize it. This includes knowing when and where these things shouldn't be used, all contributing to a successful adventure. The basic tools and equipment include rods, reels, line, hooks, sinkers, lures, weights, and sensors. Personal equipment such as scents, scissors, nets, hats, and vests will also add to your ability to prepare for any circumstances that might be presented. Bass fishing is an engaging sport and requires an incredible amount of participation on your part. There are numerous styles and tools, and you'll find that the differing water sources offer something for just about anyone in the world today. Quick tips on the most appropriate equipment, as well as techniques for mastering the bass fishing quest, are going to explore in this next section. We will focus on several tools, including bait, both artificial and live, rod and reels, test lines, hooks, and lures. While we'd like nothing more than to delve more deeply into the explanations concerning some tool choices above others, time and space are an issue. There are plenty of other published literary choices you can review on this topic. Our approach is very practical. We look at your actual needs. For instance, picking the right equipment doesn't mean the same thing to everyone. Every angler has their own interpretation of what equipment is necessary, and that is highly dependent on personal level of skill, physical abilities, strengths, and weaknesses. What we will do is offer suggestions as to what most feel impact the odds favorably in catching the bass you're searching for, hopefully helping you avoid another incident of encountering the one that got away. Exploring the fish species itself, including their behavior, patterns and life cycles, and combining this with your hands-on experiments with various pieces of equipment that are available to the angler is all a part of the awesome world of bass fishing in all of its glory. Technology has expanded our proverbial toolbox to include everything from fish finders to gauges and sensors. But the actual art of preparing your lines and carefully selecting your bait and lures based on your environment all add to the adventure of this activity. Boosting your self-confidence requires preparing yourself with knowledge on each of these issues. These will each pay off in their own way during your growth into an expert bass angler. Opinions are varied when talking about equipment. Personal preference, existing circumstances, and your goals, not to mention your budget, will all play a part in your final choices. Using artificial lures, trolling with live bait, or fly fishing using spinning or bait casting are options that are available. There are, however, specialty tools that will assist you in making the most of everything you utilize. For the most part, a standard 5 to 7 foot long rod will do. Use a 7 to 11 pound line. As always, weedless hooks can save you multiple frustrations when fishing in very dense cover, such as weeds or other overgrowth. There isn't really one approach that will fit everyone's preference or need. Personalizing your relationship with your equipment will mean starting with the basics, and then adding to those things as you grow with your methodology and experience. Today's tackling and fishing methods are modern, but don't let that stand in your way of opting for a more traditional or innovative approach to the sport. You can manipulate everything available to fit your specific desires and financial need. Bass fishing is a sport with a long history of fishermen who love nature. That natural hands-on experience can be especially rewarding in today's climate of technology and business-as-usual mentalities. While some beginners might be confused by the vast array of selections available to the fishermen, preparing yourself with the knowledge of what and how to make your selection and how to apply it efficiently will enhance your chances of angling your biggest bass yet. One of the most important decisions in relation to bass fishing will be picking quality tackle that can meet your needs in whatever experience you're encountering. Building your knowledge base and equipment storage over an extended period of time will allow you to make a better choice in facing the challenges you will experience. Using appropriate lures and bait in combination with hands-on delivery of the techniques you've acquired are also important aspects of your journey. Preparation and presentation are equally important when it comes to landing a big bass. Remember not to take any shortcuts. You still need to hook them and turn them. You will have to work to keep them on the line as you reel them in. The Dorling Kindersley Encyclopedia, which is detailed in Chapter 8, is an ideal source for any beginner who wants to know more about anything related to fishing tackle, equipment, and the fish species. While we don't want to restate already published facts, we do want to offer our readers who crave knowledge any information that will improve your odds of succeeding in their bass-related journey. This source is encouraged for those who would like a deeper insight into the art and science of the angler's quest. Having all of the right equipment or spending countless dollars towards the equipment you select is not a guarantee that you'll catch a huge bass. There are no guarantees in fishing. That's why it's considered a sport. However, if you explore and gather the information necessary to teach you the strengths and weaknesses of what you have, you're well on your way to real wisdom. Trial and error, as well as practice and persistence, are what make a well-versed and experienced bass master. It will take time and practice to reach the full potential offered by your equipment. It's important to remember that sophisticated equipment will increase with your skill level and progress towards refinement. Whatever your style of fishing might be, whether from shore or boat, deep waters or shallow, your existing circumstances at the time of your fishing expedition will dictate what choices for tackle, equipment, and bait will be made. Saltwater fanatics and freshwater gurus alike can choose tools and equipment from a wide variety of available selections to meet their fishing personalities and needs regardless of factors outside of their control. Techniques related to basic angling are easy to acquire through practice. It takes your ability to refine the subtleties of vast maneuvers and exploration of the secrets that have yet to be discovered. Bass fishing with its many variables will inevitably take a life of pleasure to exhaust. There has been so much knowledge acquired, and there is so much more to be discovered. You'll need to make the experience your own through finding your ideal styles, preferences, and location choices. Bass fishing is a personalized passion. Remember that there is always enjoyment offered in any type of fishing. You can control so many aspects of this journey, including location, lures, bait, and time. As a growing sport, angling can be both contagious and pervasive. Once you start, it's difficult to stop. You'll be hooked on this hobby before you realize it. Your selection of equipment and technique will depend on the species you're fishing for. Artificial lures are suggested in most freshwater fishing experiences, but there are still those who prefer live bait over hard bait, such as plastic worms and artificial rodents. The largemouth bass is an achievable catch at just about any time of the year, at many depths, and in various locations. You can even ice fish for them. Sharp hook are necessary to make this event successful. If you choose to fish in heavy covers such as weeds or grassy venues, a heavier braided line will best serve your needs. It is typically recommended that anglers use a number 4 live bait hook or a number 5 weedless hook, sharpened and turned up at about 10%. We can't say this enough. This is what keeps your bass on your hook. If your hook isn't properly situated, you won't have a fighting chance when reeling in the big one. Other elements you'll need to consider are weights and sinkers. These are especially important if you are fishing in darker or murkier waters, or when you are deep water fishing. Specialty sinkers are made with rattles that cause sound or vibrations in the water. Bass are very sensitive to sound, so whatever you can do to tempt them or tease their feeding response will work in your favor, coercing them to strike or bite at your hook. Like humans, bass are more apt to look for shelter on hot, humid days. They like to stay cool and enjoy snacks, so look for lily pads or anything else that might provide them with a cool, safe, feel-friendly environment they're searching for. Take depth and structure into consideration. This is when your ability to think like them is extremely important. Otherwise, you're wasting quality time on your venture and will come home empty-handed. Remember, they're quick and they're smart. Be prepared to use your wits when angling the mighty bass. The patterns of movement in bass will depend on their habitat. Usually weeds, shallow bays, flats, rocks, trees, and other types of structures need to be taken into consideration when tracking them. You'll also need to pay attention to conditions such as water temperature and food availability, not to mention their desire to stick close to access points that make deeper waters readily available. There is plenty of information available out there pertaining to the preferred hiding areas and how you can create patterns from this information. The information available on these and other bass-related topics is practically endless. This next section will cover more on the common techniques used in luring, as well as your equipment needs for these techniques. The topics you'll find here are surface, topwater buzz baits, Carolina rig, crank bait, jerk bait, jigs, lipless crankbait, poppers, soft jerk bait, spinner bait, Texas rig, walking the dog, slip bobbers. Surface baits, topwater baits, and buzz baits are akin to spinner-type baits. The big difference is that these types have flat blades, which enable them to surface more quickly. They attract attention by creating disturbances along the water as a minnow might do. This triggers the feeding and hunter impulses of the bass, causing them to strike or bite. You might just catch a nice one with this bait. The Carolina rig is very similar to the Texas rig, and using soft baits such as plastic worms is ideal. Many anglers like using heavier weights, 0.5 to 1 ounce or more, sliding them on the line, following up with 3 beads per swivel. Also, they typically use a leader line just under the size of the main line. You're able to drop the bait down to the waterbed quickly with this, and it's ideal for deep water anglers. The leader movement lets the bait swim, as well as rise over the waterbed, slowly falling again. This is very easy to practice, and its versatility is great for improving your rigging and tackle skill set. Crankbait refers to lures that are typically made from hardwood or plastic. Adding a diving lip on the front of your lure imitates the diving and swimming movements of natural prey. Bass can't pass up the temptation to strike at this lure. Remember, the larger the lip, the deeper it dives. Anything that might simulate a noise is helpful in some situations. Jerkbait is favored by many bass fishermen for suspended or topwater fishing. Minnow-shaped plugs that have many different size and color selections are available as well. Topwater bait, such as this, has a twitch and stop type of retrieval benefit. When utilizing suspending jerkbait, they'll dive deeper, and when you jerk it, this will entice the bass to meet and bite the bait. Another great catch is on the way. Jigs are described as a trusted tackle. Added features such as plastic skirts or baits for bodies instead of skirts are great when combined with a frog, artificial worm, or crawfish. These could be referred to as lead, head, and hook with a dressing. While this might take a bit of extra time, you're sure to reap the benefits from its use. Lipless crankbait is mainly a sinking type of lure made of plastic. It's not uncommon to find them with internal rattles that cause noise or vibration that cause underwater disturbance, which is also tempting to bass. Poppers are topwater lures. These lures make retrievals fast or jerky. You'll even find that they move in one spot for an extended period of time. Poppers are helpful in determining the hiding spots of the bass. Soft jerkbait has the same effect as other jerkbait, but it's dropped to the bottom, unlike the previously described jerkbait. This is a good tease for the bass cruising around looking for something good to nibble on. Hopefully, they won't let go. Spinnerbait simulates movement of on-the-go prey. While it's similar to a jig, the spinnerbait has a blade running over the hook. Spinnerbait imitates fish, which are a favorite for bass. The Texas rig uses a plastic worm. Use a bullet weight, a sliding weight. Use a hook that is comparable to the worm size you're using. After sharpening the hook, you'll put it into the worm head and then bring it out the side. This should be done about 1/8 to 3/16 of an inch under the initial entry point. Take the hook and rotate it so that its point is facing the body of the worm. Position it over the side to see what placement would cause it to hang straight. When the hook hangs, the worm should be positioned in a straight manner. A twisted worm will cause action and play in your line. An ineffective line won't land the bass. Walking the dog is a method that is hard to learn and use. Don't be afraid to try it if you're a beginner because it's a great way to attract your bass. Allow your bait to sit briefly after casting a long distance, taking up any slack. Tipping your rod toward the water, jerk it sideways, and pull back quickly, and reel in the slack. Now you'll jerk it again and keep repeating the steps all the way back to your rod position. Darting from side to side stimulates the elusive movement of the prey. This entices the bass to follow and strike. If you've fallen short up to this point, this technique could be your power play. Slip bobbers have a plastic jig, with a minnow or other live bait and of course your famously sharpened and slightly turned hook for keeping the bass once you've hooked him. Jiggling or slightly shaking the slip bobber in close proximity of weeds, brush, or stumps will increase your odds of enticing your prized fish. Bobber rigs or jigs are just as successful as the other rigs previously mentioned, as is the slip sinker and Carolina or drop shot rig. Remember that fish move while they feed, and the time of day that determines the amount of sunlight and water temperature play a key role in landing your bass successfully. Free line fishing is typically done in shallow waters and is known for catching a bigger share of bass than some other techniques. Cast a live baited hook, feeding the line and letting it swim. This attracts plenty of attention, with some anglers suggesting that when you're in what is called watery salad, to go heavier than the usual .20 pound line that's used. Heavy action casting rod and reel combinations that are made with straight handles can give you the leverage you'll need in reeling the big bass in. These lines are ideal for fishing in weeds or underwater jungles. Floating jig heads feature a slip sinker with a 2 to 3 foot leader. These are good when kept close to the waterbed, but make sure you don't snag your line in the process. Use weedless hooks to retrieve the live bait you used to hook the bass. It's more than possible that this was done in thick underbrush, or the weeds often found in the popular for using the floating jig heads. We can't emphasize enough that understanding the eating habits of the bass, as well as the time and area they are feeding, is paramount in selecting and offering the best bait possible. The important thing when using any bait, whether live or artificial, is that it is both appropriate for the fish species and tempting. Otherwise, these will be wasted efforts on your part. Considering the natural diet of bass helps you to improve both lure and bait appearance and the tactics that lead you to success. Bass will be searching for shapes, colors, and movements similar to what they're used to preying on. These fish are known for their hard-hitting, solid biting, and heavy fighting. They are a fierce competitor in the game of fish, so you'll need to be well prepared for what they have to offer with regard to a fight. Spinners or spoons are artificial and designed to tease bass. Designed for provoking and making the strike unpassable. This bait will drive the natural instinct of the fish to search and defend its food, optimizing your ability to hook and land the bass. Skirt colors, as well as rotation and fluttering movement, work in unison to mimic prey. The Little Hustler Spoiler is the primary choice of most anglers. Spoons are very similar in both action and movement. They are extremely effective when pulled behind trolling boats and are easy when casting and retrieving. The plugs are made to float, then dive or sink when you're reeling them in. They entice bass with plastic skirts that move in the water, disturbing the surface and inviting the bass to act. The use of artificial lures allows you to choose whether you use them with natural bait or alone. Lure types and sizes are dependent on the bass type, area, and kind of fishing you're pursuing. Options would include spinning or fly fishing or trolling. You get to choose what would work best in the area you're fishing. Several suggestions for bass fishing, in particular, include remembering that tempting the fish takes both practice and patience. Shimmy the surface when fishing in weed beds and so-called sloppy pitches. Shallow waters demand a faster lure cast and a slower retrieval as you shake your lure to hopefully trigger a response from your prey. Your goal is to tempt the bass that you are searching for any signs of movement in the water you're fishing. Polaroid sunglasses are something you won't be able to do without because you won't have the time to dodge the sunlight while presenting your bait in the manner that will call the bass. Angling is an art and skill that only improves with time. Take special care not to scare the fish when casting your bait, and don't forget that they are extremely sensitive to noise or vibration and movement. Your ability to adapt to your surroundings is important, and may have you switching out your bait in terms of color or type of rig. A strong Texas rig with a worm hooked near the bottom and a shank slid on with a 0.5 ounce weight could be a game changer. Adaptability is something you'll need to improve your chances with bass. Be prepared and think outside the box. Set up a spare rod or fish with someone that can help you respond faster to any challenge that presents itself. Bass are always moving, and they hit when they're ready, whether you're ready for them or not. Some anglers like to use braided lines that are stronger than mono in weeded areas. These lines offer no stretch and can cut down on tangling issues, improving your chances in retrieving the bass through thick cover. Choosing a strong rod that can handle the fight a bass offers is another key issue for any angler. You need to think about using wraps on your rods to prevent any dents or abrasions to your rods. Keeping your gear in good condition will mean you can save money on replacements and costly repairs. Having the right equipment and tackle isn't always all that you need. You'll be required to offer basic fishing tips as well. Setting up your rod and reel, forming loops and knot tying are important too, If you can't tie a secure knot, it will work against you when you finally hook your bass. A little trick used by many anglers is to wet the line with water before tightening your knots. Remember to trim any loose ends. This will prevent snagging or dragging on the water's bed. Gulp-sinking minnows are easily cast far and fast. Allow it to fall or quiver down with quite a bit of slack. This could be a move that invites the bass to take a closer look at what you have to offer. Tube jigs, gulp tubs can be scented, giving you an added pleasure for your fish. Bass enjoy substances that are soft and chewy. Once the fish have this, they don't want to let it go, which increases the likelihood of landing the big one. Topwater baits that have rattles are used and favored by many anglers. Using these baits with slack in your line, you'll be walking the dog or flipping, which is a great invitation for the bass you're teasing. Red coloring in your spinnerbait appears as blood. It looks like a wounded prey to the bass. Their instincts cause them to look more closely at what you have to offer. This could make the difference in promoting a possible hit or bite. Let's review. It doesn't matter what kind of boat you're in, or if you are on the shore, or in a stream, etc. There are many things that can determine the outcome of your fishing experience. You need to consider the strength of your rod and reel, tackle bait, preparation, and presentation. Summing up your surroundings and looking for structures. All of these in combination will make or break your bass numbers and stories of success in landing the big one. Chapter 3. Aspects that you can and can't control. There are many things we need to consider when we begin our bass angling adventure, things that shouldn't be dismissed or ignored. In this chapter, we're going to talk about these things and the aspects of the sport that you can and cannot control. First, let's take a look at water depth. Bass live and move at various water depths. Water temperatures cycle seasonally and reoxygenize. Temperatures fluctuate between depth and surface layers. Ice can form, melt, and move deeper. We have been provided with enough evidence to determine that there are 3 layers that form within each body of water. Let's take a look at a lake. The deepest point would be cold, the mid-depth would be milder, and the top or surface layer would hold warmer water. Look at the temperatures, as well as any oxygen-rich areas that will also be considered before you begin. Think out the process and think about what the bass need or desire, and answer those basic questions as if they were your needs or desires. You need to think like the fish, and then you'll end up where the fish are congregating. As an angler, you need to be prepared to assess, understand, and learn from the environment around you. Tools that are helpful in assessing these variables are depth meter and temperature gauge. Using the information from these instruments, you will be better able to determine where the fish are, thereby providing you with an idea of what type of tackle you'll utilize and how you will exercise your angling skills. This information will help you plan your strategy for the day and hopefully take home a good catch. Because most species of bass prefer a temperate climate, and they can withstand a varying range of temperatures between 60 degrees and 75 degrees Fahrenheit, allowing you to fish throughout the year. It may be surprising to know that anglers that prefer ice fishing hook bass in temperatures as low as 32 to 39 degrees Fahrenheit. But the lower the temperature, the more sluggish the fish. Keeping this in mind can help improve the success of your catch for the day. This also works when temperatures rise. Oxygen is important for bass. Therefore, the higher the temperature, the closer the fish are to the shore. They stay close to oxygen-producing plant life. Nature, once again, provides anglers with the information they need to locate their prey. Bass also prefer areas that aren't crowded by other bass, as this could deplete their oxygen supply. Take note of any areas that are stagnant or have decaying plant life. These areas are sure to have low levels of oxygen for the fish as well. Water clarity is very important. but not for the reasons you may think. Bass can be found in clear or murky water, but their behavior is influenced by the conditions they're found. Typically, the more clear the water, the deeper the fish will swim. For instance, bass will execute their plan based on how much energy they will exhaust in their quest for food as well as survival. These predators prefer cover afforded by deeper waters, but at certain times, like on days when the temperature is higher, they will typically be found in shallow water. Keep in mind that bass always have an escape plan that will take them to deeper water. Considering these facts will help you locate the area the bass are congregating. Because the male protects the nest, he will defend it against an intruder or threat. Now your game of chance has turned into a focused and analytical plan of action. Bass use their bodies as a type of sounding board. Surface disturbances or movement in the water will garner their attention. This can help you. Squeaky oars, trolling motor, and even a noisy cast can get their attention. Pay attention to any water or plants moving in their vicinity. Wearing a good pair of sunglasses is also helpful because it will enable you to see them more clearly in direct sunlight. Most anglers will tell you that dusk and dawn are the best times for bass. This is when they tend to feed, preferring to stay hidden during the warmest times of the day. It takes as little as 1 or 2 degrees in temperature to deter the bass, urging them to take cover and stay cool. Bass are very observant, and both color and movement have been studied closely. Selecting the lure and bait that appears most realistic in terms of their prey will increase your chances of catching higher numbers of fish. This doesn't necessarily mean that bass won't bite during the night or at noon. It simply means that you'll need to take into consideration the variance in condition, planning your presentation, and technique in accordance to meeting your specific needs. This may also require you to work a little harder at luring them out of hiding. Seasons are changing. Conditions are changing. Everything is in constant motion when it comes to aspects of your fishing regime. Constant change is inevitable when it comes to weather and angling rules. Nothing remains the same in regard to conditions and the influence these conditions have on your strategy and pursuit of the mighty bass. When discussing optimal times for catching bass, there is a wide range of opinions out there. There are areas that allow fishing only after spawning times. Of all the seasons, fall is considered to be the prime time to lure the biggest bass. Even winter offers some form of fishing enjoyment. It really depends on where you're located, the typical weather conditions for the area, and the type of success the bass are having with regard to spawning. The clarity and the current condition of the body of water are also key indicators when trying to determine how the fish will respond to your invitations. Because weather greatly impacts the behavior of bass, the seasonal weather and water clarity may require you to plan your strategy accordingly. As previously stated, you'll need to base your choice of equipment, bait, lures, and presentation on several factors that are out of your control. Those factors are weather, temperature, and water clarity. Again, knowledge is the key to your success or the lack thereof. Remember that bass are sensitive to sunlight and higher temperatures, so be prepared to look for them in shady areas and water that provides some type of shelter. Fishing is not a passive sport. On the contrary, this sport requires you to maintain an ability to alter your plans at any time, and with little warning. This is because many conditions can change without much notice from Mother Nature. But being the angler that you are, you will welcome the challenge with open arms, changing your strategies and tool choices, refining your skills, and learning even more about your elusive prey. An alert bass angler will find opportunity during challenging times such as these, often taking pleasure in his ability to conform to the demand of fluctuating temperatures, wind direction or speed, air pressure, choppy waters, cloudy skies, his choice of worms, changing color with the amount of available sunlight or cloud cover, and taking pleasure in every aspect of the ever-changing conditions surrounding him. Bass are predatory by nature, and creatures of habit. While they can be predictable in some respects, as hunters they will do things based on instinct, and as seasoned anglers, we will reciprocate by capitalizing on this. There are numerous facts regarding the bass species that are valuable and provide keys that unlock the secrets to successful bass fishing and all of its glory. We need to think like hunters as well as our prey. By doing this simultaneously, we will make significant gains in our success rates, making the hunt that much more dynamic. Preparing and planning in nature's terms, with its quirks, complicated patterns, and inescapable odds, we can hone our abilities and become the seasoned anglers we dream of being, leaving nothing to chance in securing the prized catch. Now we'll look at the preferred habitat and fishing structures of bass. Someone once compared contour and topographical maps for bass anglers to treasure maps and the pirates of years past. The many lines denote elevation and depth, helping the angler to obtain a better view of how the water's floor would appear. You'd be surprised to find that in just about every instance, it isn't flat. In contrast, it is characterized mostly by rises and humps, as well as drop-offs and slopes. Larger numbers of bass will typically be found in deeper waters, which means more strikes and bites and larger hauls. This is based on the fact that bass prefer deeper water and are continuously moving, hunting, feeding, and protecting their territory, giving us the knowledge of where they can be found. The natural diet of bass is an important aspect of your controllable variables. You'll define the art of enticing your prey by presenting a suitable atmosphere and conditions that invite the strike. Finally, and of utmost importance, we will look at self-confidence as a key variable and controllable aspect of angling. Your ability to envision yourself locating and catching bass is one of the most valuable tools you'll ever acquire when it comes to angling bass. This is something that only you can control and manage. This is something that can't be purchased or easily acquired. Self-confidence is earned and grown throughout your experiences as an angler. Regardless of the tools and equipment you choose, and regardless of the bait you use, your positive attitude is the one thing that will carry further in your quest for the bass you've been longing for. This is the single element in bass fishing that can be honed and developed by none other than you. So when in doubt, remember. Chapter 4. Fish like a pro. What you need to know. Wouldn't it be nice if fishing like a pro came as easily as learning the basics? It is. We're going to take this chapter to give you the information necessary to refine your efforts and master the art of angling. These are some of the things we're going to take a look at in this chapter. Casting accurately. Landing a bass. Lures and spinning. Plastic worms. You'll find that mastering your casting action is important. Without this, you're going to be spending a lot of valuable time in your recasting efforts. Fishing equipment combinations today are made to be useful and flexible for every fisherman. With the promotion of hassle-free combinations, developing your cast is easier than ever. In casting, skill and accuracy are your most important issues, and they matter much more than strength. Distance in your cast isn't always a detrimental issue, but there are circumstances where it can be. It's most important for focus on getting your hook, line, and sinkers into the water at the right depth. This takes knowing the waters you're fishing in, imitating the prey of bass, and hitting your target with confidence are basic skills that need to be honed early on. Let's work on getting the lure to the right depth. Expert anglers like to use a countdown method, counting from the moment the bait hits the water to the time it hits the bottom. Estimating this time will help you to understand what you're doing and what happened in the process. This is when you need to take special care in familiarizing yourself with possible obstacles that might hinder your casting process. There is nothing more frustrating than a tangled line in a tree limb only because you weren't paying attention. The best plan for mastering the ideal cast is hands-on rod and reel practice. If you don't have the time it takes to get you to your water hole, practice casting plugs in your yard or other dry land that's available to you. You'll find that this type of practice will make your casting rhythm more effective and accurate when you make it to the water. Whatever type of fishing you do, your history with failures and missed targets will teach you well, making your ability to cast routine. Casting a lure using various types of reels, floats, rigs, and bait are all similar. Different techniques including spinning, lure fishing, plugging, topwater lures, baiting with crank, and trolling are fundamental methods to be learned. There are DVDs available or online explanations that will make this easier. Fishing shows are a great place for anglers to offer their knowledge and pointers. You can use all of these to perfect and define your individual style and find what's most comfortable for you. Bass fishing offers something for just about everyone, whatever your experience level happens to be. Picking a target to aim and land your lure is a good approach. You'll need to focus your grip because a spinning reel, bait caster, and closed-face spin caster all require individual techniques. A good arch in the air towards your water source is a good reference to improve your casting technique and accuracy. Make sure you maintain good line control to avoid overshooting. To obtain a gentle landing and a slower flight, touch your index finger to the spool lip. This is known as feathering. Practice makes perfect in these cases. To land a bass, you're going to have to be familiar with the feel of the bass. Retrieval of the bass is more than gathering in a fish in your hands or boat. You'll need to master knowledge and control with reel clutching, curves, arching, and bending rods with various settings. These, in conjunction with hooking, playing, retrieving, and landing, are important aspects of the art. More than mere steps, they translate into a bass fishing experience with success. The symphony of interplay with process, tactic, technique, equipment, and outcome is all working at once. To use a spinning reel or a bait casting reel, you will need up to 3 methods: anti-reversing, back-winding, and the use of thumb pressure control. A bass on the run can make things exciting. Keep applying pressure. Keep your rod up in the air a bit, and keep increasing the drag if you need to. Make sure to pay attention to tension, avoiding line breaks, and allow the fish to expend his energy. He'll tire, and you can reel him in more easily. The process doesn't stop at hooking and reeling in. Landing the bass is a basic technique that also needs to be mastered. Beaching is not a suitable technique for catch and release, and neither is tailing. It's important to watch for teeth species and using the lipping technique or nets. It's important to remain in control and alert at times so that you don't upset the bass. Allow your bass to turn and even submerge the net, and don't lunge at it. Lipping requires you to grasp the line between your fingers and thumb gingerly while you unhook it with care in the water and free it gently. You don't want to injure the bass, so you will need to adhere to acceptable catch and release practices. Let's take a look at using lures and spinning. The most important advice we can give you here is to stay as true to nature as possible. Focus on the types of bait, lures, and tackle you're using. You will optimize your chances by staying true to natural diet, color, prey as you possibly can. The form of the spinning blade on the lure will affect its working underwater. Floating lure is effective for deep water bass fishing, but you'll need to be careful of snagging anything on the water bed, and be sure to weigh it down properly with suitable weights. You need to make sure the bass sees your bait. Spoons come in 2 general types, trolling and casting. Then you have weedless lures, with nylon-coated hooks or metal hooks that prevent snagging the weeds. You can also use a weedless spoon. The Bassmaster will look for shape, weight, and speed when making their choice. Your choice will require you to know your way around a tackle box. You'll need to spend some time getting to know what works and what doesn't. Many anglers keep a personal journal, recording their retrieval and success rates in bass fishing. Surface lures and plugs are made for versatility and agility. Many bass anglers prefer these types, but matching your lures to the conditions you're facing on a particular day is important. Also, you should consider where you are fishing and what you are fishing. Smallmouth bass, largemouth bass, spotted bass, striped bass, yellow bass, black bass, rock bass. Surface water lures can be very effective in fishing bass. They are an excellent way to fish in shallower water. Bait types come in many options such as stick bait, minnow plugs, or live minnows. Prop bait, crawlers, and water bait are all useful. Use a topwater teaser to lure in bass, then follow up by a plastic worm on a separate rod. This will optimize strikes. This is what many anglers refer to as a 1-2 punch. Worms, both live and artificial, are available in many different types, and they are a necessity for bass anglers. You'll need to master hooking them correctly. It is important to be sure you're threading it correctly or your efforts will be wasted. You'll need to make sure you get as much of the body on the hook as possible so that it doesn't fly off during your cast. Make sure you're inserting the hook in one end and protruding the hook through the other end. This also protects it from being easily nibbled off the hook by other fish that might be sharing the same area as the bass you're trying to hook. Using worms with other techniques, such as topwater or hard bait disturbers, is also helpful. Depending on the body of water you're utilizing, you can even use frogs or eels or other species the specific body provides. Feeding bass their preferred choice of bait is a key element in deciding what you'll use. You'll need to adapt your strategy and give bass a variety of foods. We don't usually enjoy eating the same things over and over, so it's doubtful that they will either. These tips should help you increase your odds of catching your next bass, as well as increasing the size and number of bass you're hooking. Chapter 5. Common mistakes when bass fishing. Bass fishing is more than one might imagine when venturing out. Get to know the critter. Know the species. Know the different places in which it lives. Know its habitat. Know the water you'll be fishing in are very important during your journey. Pay close attention to your equipment and accessories, and do what you can to learn about the habits, patterns, and behavior of bass, including their natural diet and habitat. Use whatever time you can in practicing basic skills pertaining to bait, tackle, casting, and preparation. Bass fishing may take a lot of practice, but believe us when we tell you it's all worthwhile. While we'll take a look at some casting errors here, take an opportunity to research additional literature on this topic. In order to gain the most from your bass fishing experience and numbers, take a look at these common mistakes beginners might make when casting. Number 1. Overshooting your lure. This is done when there's too much power in your initial cast. Number 2. The lure is too light and falls short of your target if you release your line too early or hold the rod too high. Number 3. Landing the lure too hard occurs when the release was at an exceptionally low level or angle and didn't reach an adequately high arch. Number 4. Missing the mark with inaccurate casting causes the lure to veer off course. This happens with a lot of swaying action or extra motion in the rod during the cast. It helps to associate your casting motion to that of hands on a clock. Start at 2 o'clock, go back to 12 noon, and then go back to 2 o'clock again. Many beginners learn quickly with this visualization and technique. Chapter 6. Techniques for bass fishing. Now we're going to take some time to look at different bass fishing techniques that have worked for anglers over time. These include: Number 1, skipping. Number 2, ripping. Number 3, drift trolling. Number 4, fly rodding. Number 5. Night or ice fishing. Skipping as a technique for fishing may remind you of skipping rocks on the water and requires you to guide or drive the lure across the water top with minimal disturbance. This will tempt the bass to rise up and see what's there to eat. This technique uses a rod and reel combination, and it's perfect for getting to bass in the areas they swim or hide, such as under piers, docks, or other structures. This technique is also useful for getting into the underbrush. You'll need to remember to think like your prey. They want shady areas during sunny periods, and they search for food and shelter alike. Some refer to ripping and the jerk and go. Use a bendy rod. This will trick the bass into assuming there is wounded prey nearby and enticing their quick search. Pros let the worm drop and settle for a long while. Take up the slack in the line. Raise the worm with a sharp sweep, then drop it again. This perfectly imitates their live prey. Drift trolling is a technique that uses multiple worms trailing the water bottom behind your moving boat. This not only looks natural to bass, they can't help but respond to your invitation. Fly rodding is effective in ponds, rivers, and streams alike. This is also referred to as fly fishing and is a great technique for angling bass. You'll set up and rig a plastic weedless worm, adding a split shot before you hook it, allowing it to sink more slowly, which is necessary for attracting your bass. Make sure you remember to keep your rod tip low, which allows for an easy strike when a bass hits your target. Night and ice fishing require you to make it easy for the bass to spot the bait easily. You need to use the right tackle and lures as well as bait, dropping it right in front of the bass. You don't want them to expend a lot of energy trying to get what you're offering. Because cold water causes the bass to move more slowly, you're going to need to move more slowly as well. Bass tend to school during cooler and darker periods, and remember, this will ensure a hit during these times. There are unlimited fishing scenarios. These are just a few of the most common. While we can't provide for every condition, we can learn from each other, and we will look forward to sharing our secrets and learning from you as well. Chapter 7. Tournaments and Going Pro. You can make fishing your profession or trade if you play it right. There are people out there who do this for a living, providing edible fish for the public and doing what they love. They make it a business by buying equipment and selling fish for profit. Many people just fish for fun. To them, it's a game. They want to relax in nature, and they find the peace they are seeking by waiting for fish to bite. Bass fishing is different from other forms of fishing in the sense that anglers cast a hook with an artificial fly, as opposed to different forms of bait. Bass fishing is one of those ways that it typically requires the presence of pros when you're doing it. They are well respected and seen as experts because of their commitment and skills. Many anglers prefer fly fishing because they can see everything moving when something happens. The fly can be seen on the surface of the water because it will float. The fisherman can see the fish bite. The negative side, however, is that the trout and other kinds of fish have the tendency to feed underwater, so they are not that happy to come to the surface. Nymph fishing is when the flies lay eggs in the river. The eggs hatch out of nymphs, and they make their way to the surface as they hatch into a fly. Therefore, nymph fishing utilizes imitations of different nymphs that are weighted to stay below the surface of the water. This type of fishing is seen as being more difficult, since everything happens underneath the surface and is invisible to the fisherman. Bass fly fishing has become a lot more popular. Some even treat it as a religion, and they value their time doing it more than anything else. It's also good for the environment, since it's not as harmful to the fish as many other techniques, and a lot of fishermen release the bass back into the lake or river. If you want to be a pro at bass fishing, you will need certain gear and equipment. Specific gear belongs to pro bass fishermen. One such example is the rod, which has to be chosen carefully. For beginners, basic rods are enough, but not for the pros. It poses special challenges to those who get involved, which can help a pro bass fisherman not only enjoy nature, but also be proud of the certain skill set he or she has acquired. Pro bass fishing provides an entirely new adventure. Tournaments. One of the exciting things about bass fishing is that you can show off your big fish. More people are getting into it, so it's becoming more competitive. Nowadays, there are bass fishing tournaments across the world. Some of the outcome, of course, depends on luck. I mean, how can you really say it's all because of skill when you catch a big fish? You need some body flexibility for carrying equipment, as well as some stamina and patience. Other than that, your mind matters, and it will determine the strategies you use for setting up your gear and picking a spot. There are tournaments in northwestern Ontario, like the KBI on the Lake of the Woods, or the Fort Frances Canadian Bass Championship, or several smaller tournaments in Sunset Country. Another one is the Shoal Lake Bass Classic Tournament, which takes place in July in Shoal Lake, Ontario. Smallmouths normally win in these tournaments. The winning weight for this 2-day tournament is often in the 32 to 34 pound range. English River Bass Challenge also happens in July, a tournament held on the English River system in Grassy Narrows, Ontario. It is a First Nation-sponsored bass tournament on the English River in Ontario. If you're looking for something cool, then check this out. In the third week of July, they hold the Fort Frances Canadian Bass Championship, which is considered to be Canada's largest live-release cash bass tournament, with a total of $172,500 in prizes. There is a $50,000 first prize. This event on Rainy Lake attracts many of the best bass fishermen from all over North America, but the weight for winners is often in the 55-pound range. Then there is the Kenora Bass International, KBI. It occurs in August. The event on Lake of the Woods offers a $30,000 first prize. There is a bigger chance to win the tournament if you catch largemouths, especially if the water is high. If you want to win, the weight should be between 45 to 50 pounds. Another series of tournaments is the Ding Wang Ford Bass Tournaments. You can find this tournament on each second Sunday in August. This is a 1-day bass fishing tournament that invites anglers of all ages. The tournament is held in Dryden on the Wabigoon chain of lakes, excluding Norwick chain. It's known as a funny bass tournament because of the age difference and the welcoming of amateurs. Other tournaments across the world include Crow Lake Classic, Last Chance Bass, Stratton Fish Derby, Agamak Lake Fishing Tournament, Whitefish Bay Fishing Derby and Crow Lake Classic. Other fishing tournaments and derbies: Lowe's Annual Live Release Fish Tournament. Chapter 8. Fall Bass Fishing. Despite the convenience of supermarkets and other stores, the pleasures of finding groceries around the corner of the street, man has still found satisfaction throughout the ages in catching his own food. I live in the Midwest of the United States, in the Rocky Mountains, and you have no idea how many of my friends are into hunting or fishing. They love it. It gives them this rough nature feeling that takes them away from the stresses of everyday jobs and technology. If there were no winters, bass fishermen would continually set out for the woods and sometimes neglect other aspects of life. They are truly passionate about their hobby, business, and anyone young or old, athletic or fat, can catch bass. Some anglers will even ignore weather conditions because of their desire to catch a large bass fish and take a selfie with it. It's like a trophy, a hunter's prize, of his effort to go out there and conquer those who are lower in the food chain. The fall is an excellent time for going bass fishing in fresh water. Autumn is the season that many bass are willing to bite. One piece of advice I have for you is to start early in the morning or early in the evening. Why? Because bass are more active in this cooler temperature. The right timing matters. If you want to catch one of those big boys, then you need to take this advice to heart. In a general sense, autumn is a better time to exercise this hobby because the overall temperature is colder anyway. For this reason, bass fishing in the fall can help you outrank competitors, revealing one of the secrets to success in this trade. One example of an area where bass fishing in the fall is considered to be wise is Northern California. There is an abundance of bass fish in this area, but the best time here too is in the fall. They even have a fall salmon run in the Sacramento River. Chapter 9. Bass Fishing Techniques. When you fish for bass, you want to be smart about what you're doing. Fishing can be fun, but it can be frustrating if you don't get the desired results. Fishing techniques are usually based on and adjusted to the waters a fisherman is fishing in. One of the first things you consider, for instance, is the shore where you begin. The second thing to think about is the weather. Bass fish are usually found in big lakes, and, like the sea, there are storms at lakes. This can be quite dangerous. Although I just pointed out that the fall is the best time to catch bass, the summer is ideal for a safe return and a pleasant weather forecast. This is why a lot of fishermen, regardless of the temperature and chances of success, will still choose the summer. The third thing to consider is whether you are going to fish in the deep, offshore fishing, or just in the shoreline. In the deep, you have to be certain that your boat passes all the regulations for safety that the state you live in imposes. Those regulations are there for a reason, made by people who have had multiple experiences in the typical weather conditions in the area. Some fishermen use the trolling techniques in the deep sea fishing or offshore fishing to catch more fish. However, when you opt to do bass fishing in the shorelines, you only need small boats and minor fishing gadgets. Another tip: fishing at night may be more productive too, at times. One thing you'll need to know about bass is that they prefer discolored water. When the water is clear, you will have a harder time catching bass than if it's dark. This probably comes with their survival instinct that tells them they don't want to stand out to get caught. Especially smallmouth bass stay away from clear water. When you go for fishing gadgets, be sure to choose the most durable hooks that will hold firm when opportunity is given. Your choice of baits is essential to your success too. Remember that the bigger the bait, the more likely you'll catch the big fish. Smaller bait is better for bigger fish. That's a rule of thumb, although there are exceptions, of course. If you are new at bass fishing, it will be better to fish with someone else who really knows what he or she is doing, but who is also familiar with the flora and fauna of the river or lake where you decide to fish. As a novice, you might choose to just fish in the shorelines of the lake or stay with the smaller lake areas because they are less challenging. Small lakes usually contain a variety of smallmouth bass and white bass. The rivers are a good place to start as well. Here you will find catfish, and many of the little pools are full of them, which makes it that much easier. Split shotting. Invest your time into mastering this technique. It can mean the difference between going home empty-handed and getting the results you are looking for. Especially in the cold winter months, this technique will prove to be useful when you go bass fishing. The cold weather in the winter causes the bass to have their specific patterns. Instead of using spinner, crank, or rip baits, it will be more beneficial to use finesse gear. Split shotting doesn't require a huge investment. The most difficult part about mastering this technique is detecting the bite. It will be different according to how active the fish is. Sometimes they will pop the bait hard, and you will sense they are eating it instantly. Other times, there may be a slight, almost unnoticeable tick, and then nothing else. Lastly, there can be a pressure bite, which can take two forms. Number 1. You may feel a small resistance to pulling your line forward. It feels like attaching a soft, spongy rubber band. Number 2. You completely lose your contact with the bottom. A bass attached to your lure and is following it with your forward movements. This is the exact reason why it's adamant to stay in contact with the bottom. When you notice you have lost the feel of the weight against the bottom and your depth hasn't changed a lot, you must get ready to set the hook. The best hook set for this technique is known as a sweep set. When you realize a bass holding your bait, drop the rod toward the fish, reel down to the point of feeling resistance, sweep the rod horizontally in the opposite direction, away from the bass. If the rod loads up well and you become more certain you have got the hook in the fish, then simply fight it to the boat. If it didn't feel right, you should set the hook for the second time and give it another try. The drag on your reel needs to be set tightly enough that it doesn't give on the initial hook set, but it shouldn't be set too tightly because otherwise a larger fish can't take the line if it needs to. As the best spot to catch bass is not on weeds and cover, it's better to make use of weedless lures when possible. This way, you won't lose your expensive lures, which can add up, even if they are relatively cheap. Bass stay in many different temperatures, but they have the tendency to move around less in a cold front. During the sunniest parts of the days, fish like to swim deeper to stay cool. Look for shady spots or deeper water when you're fishing for bass. If you want to try shallow water, it's easier to do so and have success when the water is cloudy. Retrieve your bait slower in colder water. Fish tend to react slower in colder temperatures, in a general sense. Chapter 10. Bass Fishing in Mexico. Many people go bass fishing in lakes, and one of the most popular areas of bass fishing in the world is done in Mexico. Some of the best bass can be found in Mexico, which makes it a unique experience and a great destination for your bass fishing adventures. Because of the natural, clean environment and productive water mass, most anglers and travelers fish here. There are Mexican bass lakes like Huites, Bacaric, El Salto, Aguamilpa, Camadero, and Guerrero, which offer basses that are over 10 pounds on any given cast. Imagine that! Lake El Salto contains numerous bass fish, more than any other lake in the world. It is a 23,000-acre impoundment where you can find some of the very best largemouth bass fish in the country. It is situated about 50 miles north of the nice seaside resort Mazatlan. More than 1,000 of bass ranging over 10 pounds have been caught in this beautiful gift from God in Mexico. Another one of those crystal wonders is Lake Aguamilpa. It contains huge numbers of largemouth bass as well. It is seen as one of the best waters of all. Lake Bacarac is a great spot for catching bass. The lake has become better each year since first bass fishers came here, improving every year. The lake is circa 5 miles wide and 25 miles long. It is surrounded by lush, green forests and high mountain tops. Lake Comedero is a beautiful mountain lake within the Sierra Madre Mountains, 100 miles northeast of the seaside resort of Mazatlan. It has a clear and cool water with thousands of hungry black bass striking almost any type of lure all year. It is the world's best bass lake for numbers of bass from 8 pounds to 12 pounds, with some bass ranging from 12 to 15 pounds. On the east coast of this great country, Two big lakes are perfect for Mexico bass fishing. Lake Guerrero, with large quantities of fish and sometimes a 10-pounder. And then there is Lake El Chuchillo, one of the newest Mexico bass fishing lakes. You can find it about 100 miles south of the Texas-Mexico border. Two main reasons. There are two reasons why Mexico is one of the best places in the world to go bass fishing. Number one. The first reason is because of the seasons. Having the warm temperatures in most areas of Mexico, the growing season for bass is at least several months longer than in many areas in the USA. Consequently, the bass fish grow larger faster than they do in other areas in the world. Number two. Fishing pressure is important too, and it can make a lot of difference. Because the locals don't see the opportunities in bass fishing, there won't be too many competitors or other boats on many of those lakes. The culture just doesn't acknowledge the need or challenge of this sport, and since the economy is different, it might not be beneficial enough in a financial way for them to do so. For this reason, the bass are under a lot of pressure. According to some, this makes Mexico the absolute best spot to go bass fishing. Puerto Vallarta. Puerto Vallarta is another popular spot in Mexico to go bass fishing. It is situated on a wide bay of white beaches, and they are filled with big fish. Ornamented with cobblestone streets and interesting architectural patterns, the sunny weather and welcoming locals add to the ultimate vacation destination to exercise your passion. The area is geographically diverse because of the mountains, rivers, jungles, waterfalls, and the weather is not an obstacle to enjoying the holidays there. Although more people have been flocking to it, it is located on the huge Banderas Bay, also known as the Bay of Flags, one of the largest natural bay of Pacific Ocean. It's a great spot for fishing. Fishermen from all across the globe return each year to compete for the next big fish to catch. Besides bass, you can also find fish like amberjack, pargo, snook, jack crevalle, snapper, grouper, rainbow runner, red snapper, roosterfish, sierra, Spanish mackerel, triggerfish, etc. The best fishing rigs in Mexico are the bass fishing boats and motors. Each and every one of them is equipped with new or almost new outboards, troll motors, and swivel fish. When you go to Puerto Vallarta, you are obligated to have a daily or annual fishing license. The Puerto Vallarta Bass Club organizes tournaments and other events. It's located at the Lake Agua Milpa. In Puerto Vallarta, catching and releasing fish has become more common to provide a good sport fishing experience. When properly handled and released, fish will continue to repopulate the waters for our continued enjoyments. This is the reason why many of the fishermen release their fish right after catching them. If the fish won't be released and will be eaten by large numbers, there may be a time that the fish won't be able to procreate fast enough to keep up with the disappearing quantities and become extinct in certain areas. All in all, Puerto Vallarta is one of those golden nuggets to find for the fanatic bass anglers who want to do something different and enjoy the hot weather at the same time. Make sure you bring some sunglasses and sunblock when you go, and drink enough water, not the water from the lake. Chapter 11. Ontario Smallmouth Fishing. The glacial lakes of the Canadian Shield, and in thousands of rivers, creeks, and lakes in between, is some of the best Ontario smallmouth bass fishing. Largemouth is common to find in the warm areas of the water. In some lakes, the habitats are intermingled, making it so that largemouth and smallmouth bass are in the same area. The angling action can vary in Ontario for that reason. The Ontario smallmouth bass fish are usually more easily to be found in open water, where you can make use of the medium action 6 to 10 pound test lines and 6 to 7 foot spinning rods. The best ways and places to catch those smallmouth bass are in deep underwater points, rocky shoals, weed edges, and submerged islands. In northern Ontario, you can often find the smallmouth bass in the deepest parts of the water, and it's unlike any other part of the world. When you look at wilderness air, you can fly to an exclusive lake and stay in a cabin or outpost with all the things that make life comfortable. It's an organization that specializes in taking the fanatic fishermen to the most remote spots to find the most beautiful bass. A little side note, in case you haven't read this anywhere else. The smallmouth bass got its name because the back of its lower jaw does not expand past the eye, while the lower part of the jaw of a largemouth does. There is a low notch linking the dorsal fins, and their bodies often resemble dark, broken bars. Smallmouth bass usually mature until they are about 3 or 4 years old. After that, they typically live to be 12 years of age. If you use a light line, Ontario smallmouth bass fish fight back a lot, and they typically leap and dive down into the depths. Crawling spinnerbaits or retrieving shallow running crankbaits along the submerged weed patches can do the trick. Both the largemouth and the smallmouth bass can be caught with diving crankbaits. Fishing differs from flip and pitch styles around the shallow, matted weeds, docks, and stumps to thrilling topwater stroke on jerkbaits, poppers, and hovering plastic worms. Here are several other tips on how to enjoy your bass fishing. Number 1. Keep the smallmouth and largemouth bass tactics separate. They are very different fish. Largemouth bass can be found around the thick weed beds, but the smallmouth bass rather stay in places where the rock ledge drops off. The best way to lure them are with crawfish, minnows, leeches, and hellgrammets. You can try using everything that looks like a minnow, including plastic worms and flag flies. Number 2. Keep in mind that in Ontario, smallmouth bass fishing is different because they are grouped together. If you find a smaller size group, there usually won't be a bigger smallmouth bass between them. If you are dropping a live bait from your boat, the more permissible lines are the better. Number 3. The best season to go is from mid-June until fall. This is an excellent opportunity to catch big smallmouth bass. I hope that doesn't sound contradictory. A big smallmouth. In June, they can be found on the beds, but in autumn, they can be found in 10 to 15 feet depths under. Those who want to do it right and catch great bass should consider group rattle traps, cranks, and jigs, and always use a marker buoy to maintain position in the school properly. Chapter 12. Bass Fishing in Northern California. Northern California is a beautiful area to go fishing for bass. It offers a wide variety of opportunities to catch the big lurkers. The Sacramento River watershed is one of the most rewarding places people have reported. The water types and fishing prospects there are so different than other lakes and rivers in the same region. So this is a unique spot for the adventurers to go after them. Most fishermen who talk about fishing in California talk about the northern area. You can also find salmon in this area, as well as trout, catfish, and several other fish kinds. The gigantic Sacramento River has always been one of the best places, with its giant water mass encompassing rivers and lakes. The rivers don't just include the Sacramento River, which is the most popular, but as well as the American, the Feather, the McLeod, the Pitt, the Yuba, and Squaw Creek. On the other hand, among the lakes are Shasta, Whiskeytown, Lake Shastina, Lake Siskiyou, and the McLeod and Keswick reservoirs. People in California like calling the Sacramento River the Sac. It stretches 384 miles and drains a third of California's water. A record has been broken there, with the king salmon weighing over 88 pounds. I just mentioned a few other places in California which are great for bass fishing as well. Here are a few of those I mentioned. Clear Lake. This lake is ranked as the best lake to go bass fishing in California, and people from all over the USA are excited about this place as well. The Shasta. This is the biggest artificially made reservoir in all of California. Folsom Lake. Despite the swimmers and recreational boats, it's still a wonderful place to catch fish. There are certain spots in the lake where bass fish grow and reach gigantic sizes. The Cal Delta. With about 2,000 miles of shoreline, this lake is famous for its large quantity of big bass fish. Just because the fish are so large there, many anglers flock to this area, away from recreational bathers and tourists. Berryessa. Another beautiful lake with large bass fish. Many fishermen came back with smiles on their faces. Oroville. California's best place for spotted bass fish. This is the area for the adventurous bass fishers who love a challenge. Chapter 13. Bass Fishing in North Carolina. Fishermen in North Carolina have great opportunities to make their hobby and their passion a daily routine. For those who are visiting, getting the right information will be worth their while. Some reservoirs are alike, and sometimes it's hard to tell the difference, but no two reservoirs are more similar than High Rock Lake and Bugs Island Lake. A small tip for the crankbait specialists. If you use the clip locks, use the Norman speed clips, taking the factory split ring off so the clip goes directly to the bait and keeps the action of the bait in place. This way, the line fouling will be a lot easier. It is best in North Carolina. Hit main lake structure in 12 to 20 feet of water. Since this is pretty, the bass fish are fed by tributary creeks but affected more by strong river currents, and nobody will ever confuse them with clear lakes. They're also shallow enough upstream that navigation into the upper areas can be touchy. For some mysterious reason, many of these factors cause bass to bite on those three reservoirs when the weather is close to 90 degrees. Naturally, you shouldn't use this trick instead of buying new bait. But if you get stuck on the water with no spare bait, this will help out nonetheless. None of these places are really clear, but since bass fish aren't prevalent in clear water anyway, this is perfect for finding them. They all have a solid rung at the bottom of the food chain ladder, a large number of bait fish. 3 reservoirs in the Piedmont region of North Carolina: Bugs Island Lake, Jordan Lake, and High Rock Lake. None of these are really deep reservoirs, but many pros actually like this. Here's another tip. When you rip a hole in the soft plastic bait, heat the blade of your knife with a lighter and insert the hot blade into the tear. Experience bass fishing in North Carolina to have that new feel you've been looking for. Chapter 14. Bass Fishing in Texas. Texas offers a lot of opportunities for fishing. Despite of what you may think, Texas is a state with many seas, lakes, rivers, bays, and other sources of water. I remember driving from the west to the east part of the state, and although it is fairly dry and like a desert in the west, the eastern part is very green. For the enthusiasts, there are fishing clubs and organizations to help people get started and offer solid advice to improve one's qualities. They also have equipment, gadgets, and other tools to help catch fish. In Texas, there are also bass fishing tournaments that are organized, which enhance knowledge and specific techniques. In these tournaments, a lot of new locations are revealed as well, so that more bass can be spotted. Many of these organizations have websites where you can look up the latest equipment, gear, and fishing spots. You can submit articles about tournaments, lakes, and other related issues. Chapter 15. Bass Fishing in Florida. Florida is like heaven for a lot of anglers, since the weather is so great and there are tons of places where you can fish. You can basically go bass fishing every day if you want. In Florida, the seasons don't matter as much. Because of the climate, it is possible to catch an impressive fish every day of the year. You can go fishing when you want, and nobody is going to stop you. The largemouth bass is the most prevalent and most popular freshwater fish in the state. Lake Tahoe, which is in central Florida, is by far the most popular lake of the Kissimmee chain. Lake Tahoe is relatively shallow, 18,800-acre lake that is covered with various types of aquatic vegetation. You can find the most bass fish in the area were giant hydraulic beds that can be found growing to the surface in up to 12 feet of water. Bass World Lodge is the best place to go if you want to get into the fishing game in Florida. They are situated on the St. Johns River in Georgetown, Florida, which provides fast access to some of the most lucrative Florida bass fishing and bream fishing grounds in the USA. There, in the lodge, you will find guiding services by pros, large cabins, and fully stocked bait and tackle shops, and bass and pontoon boat rentals. Because there are over 7,000 lakes in Florida, visitors sometimes face a dilemma. Where should they go to fish? Well, I've compiled a short list of the top places to go fishing in Florida. All these spots contain a solid number of bass you can get your hands on. Number 1. Lake George. This side lake of the St. Johns River has interesting plants and trees all over the place, and it's a phenomenal place for residing bass fish. You can fish with live shiners, especially in the spring. Number 2. The Stick Marsh Reservoir. This is a river where fishermen can find a variety of habitats like woody stump fields, submerged canals, and hydrilla. The hurricanes of 2004 have decreased the levels of hydrilla in the reservoir, which influences the bass's locations. Plastic worms, spinnerbaits, crankbaits, soft jerkbaits, and topwater propeller baits are effective. Wild golden shriners are the top choice for fishermen who want to grab that gigantic bass as a trophy to take a picture with. Number 3. Lake Tohopekaliga. Plastic baits, worms, crawfish, and lizards flipped along grass edges, hydrilla, and bulrush can help you catch big bass fish. Spinnerbaits, soft jerk baits, and chugging baits can sometimes be highly effective as well. Number 4. Lake Kissimmee. This is the widest of the 5 key water areas near the famous Kissimmee River in the middle of Florida. Lake Kissimmee is famous for containing high-quality fish and many opportunities to boost your ego. Those who win in the tournaments there often have 18 to 20-pound bass trophies. The frequency of catching fish here is incredibly high as well. Number 5. Rodman Reservoir. This reservoir lies east of Gainesville and south of Palatka. It covers an approximate 9,500 acres of largemouth bass habitat. Number 6. Lake Tarpon. Popular lures offshore include shad-imitating jigs, crankbaits, jerkbaits, and topwater baits. Fishing with wild shiners and live shad is also productive if you want to go in that direction. Many anglers have reported great results when fishing on this lake. Number 7. Lake Walkin Water. This lake lies south of Orlando and east of Lake Wales. It is nationally well known for being an excellent spot to catch largemouth bass. Some fishermen even catch about 20 to 25 bass each day, which range from 4 to 8 pounds on average. This lake has been protected with the rule that they may keep 3 bass per day, of which only 1 bass bigger than or equal to 24 inches is permitted. This just tells you something of the high frequency and success you can find in this great area, so much that they set up policies to limit exploitation. Number 8. Lake Istokpaga. This is considered to be the largest natural lake in Florida and has an average depth of only 2 meters or 6 feet. Per year, more than 120,000 bass are being caught in this lake, of which a great portion is heavier than 8 pounds. Number 9. Deer Point Lake. This is a popular largemouth bass fishing spot in Florida's Panhandle area near Panama City. Number 10. Suwannee River. This black water stream of about 200 miles is situated in the swamp-like region at the Georgia border. It contains a lot of largemouth bass. Number 11. The Everglades. These are the South Florida marshlands intersected with over 200 miles of canals. Many fishermen go into the canals rather than in the marsh. They typically use plastic worms, soft jerkbaits, and minnow imitations. It's a wonderful area with lots of privacy, where many anglers are having the time of their lives. There are options for renting out boats and not having to tow your own boat. There are many lodges and hotels or cabins you can rent or rent out for a weekend or a few days. Just watch out for alligators, please. Chapter 16. 100 Fly Fishing Tips. Tip number 1. Practice your casting. To become a proficient fly fisher, your cast is of the utmost importance. In order to grow this skill, employ the time-tested advice that says practice makes perfect. A good cast is the biggest distinction betwixt someone who has a good day fishing and one who comes home disgruntled unhappy. Practice frequently to develop this habit. The best way to practice is either on a long stretch of grass or the side of a house. Put a hula hoop in the grass or a few sticky notes on the wall and cast at these targets. 5 minutes a day will have huge payoffs in the long run. Tip number 2. Rod choice. How do you choose your Goldilocks rod? There are many things to keep in mind when choosing. Be aware that every rod and reel combination is different. How long a rod is should have a lot of importance in your decision. Extra length means extra weight, so pick up one you can fish with for several hours without tiring. Also, take into account your height. Don't choose an 8-foot rod if you are short, and don't choose a 5-foot rod if you are very tall. Also, look at how long the grip or handle are. Most are made of foam or cork, as these help keep your hands from slipping even when wet. Consider buying a rod with a trigger handle if you are looking at one with a lengthy grip. This will increase your control over the rod and cast. Current rods are made to transfer the feel of a bite down to the handle, so you know when to set the hook. They do this through the shaft. The shaft is also known as the blank. The action of your rod is determined by this blank. The shaft can be made of various materials. Some of the most common are graphite or fiberglass. Rods are also rated by the flexibility or action. The tip and the base are made separately and put together later. The base of your rod will be rated as light, medium, medium heavy, or heavy. The tip of the rod will also be ranked using extra light, light, or regular. A rod with medium or medium heavy action will offer you the stability to heave a fish out of the water while also granting you the maneuverability for topwater fishing. Avoid a light action rod for anything but very small fish, as it will not have a strong enough blank for you to brace against a large fish. A final thing to check is the sturdiness of the guides. Be sure to examine how they are attached to the rod shaft. You do not want one to eventually work loose and come off. Ultimately, do your research and choose your rod based on the types of fishing you intend to do. Tip number 3. Holding your rod effectively. The right grip on your rod is essential. You must be able to hold it firmly but gently at all times. Control is important, and you can tighten or loosen your grip in the midst of casting if need be. Your end goal should be to reduce any vibration in the cast. Practice this when you practice away from the water. In time, you will find yourself relaxing into the cast with the perfect amount of firmness and control. Tip number 4. When a fish runs. Fish will sometimes swim directly towards you. When this happens, you run the risk of the hook coming out due to the slackened line. If this happens, you need to get the tip of the rod as high as feasibly possible for you. If this means standing on your toes, so be it. With the rod raised, strip line out quickly. Be sure you hold it firmly with your middle fingers on the grip of the rod. This ensures the fish does not gain any slack. If, at some point, the fish does an about turn and swims away from you, don't let the rod tip lower. Let the line slip back through your fingers as needed and be ready to stop with the reel. Tip number 5. Choosing bait. There are many different baits available, but I believe the list below provides the best options for a novice. Grubs. A grub is a lure used to entice large specimens. They are small and have small bodies made of plastic. These little baits will work best in clear water where there are few places for fish to hide, such as a highland reservoir. Jigs. A jig is a bait with one hook. It is weighted with lead and made to look like a living creature. This makes them a presentation lure. Use this bait in cold water and put a trailer on the hook. Plastic worms. This bait is long and rubbery. They are great for bass and are considered the most successful lure for snagging trophies of any kind. They take some getting used to, but are worth the time to get the feel. A note on bait colors. The general purpose lures will be black or white, or a mix of these colors with scarlet. Sometimes bright or neon colors will do the job, but these are the exception, not the rule. Tip number 6. Keep flies high and dry. Treat any surface flies to keep them high and dry. To do this, coat the flies with Scotchgard a few days before a trip. The Scotchgard will create a water-resistant coat that keeps the flies from becoming waterlogged. Wait at least 24 hours before using the flies. Tip number 7. Reels. 3 main types. Bait casting reels, spinning reels, and spin cast reels are the 3 most popular types of reel available. There are pros and cons to each, and you should choose the one that best suits you. Bait casting reels. A reason to choose this type of reel is that they give you more control and better aim than any other reels. In addition to this, they are able to handle 10-pound and heavier lines. The greatest deterrent to using this type of reel is the tangle factor, as they are prone to knots, tangles, and snags, especially when it is windy. They also kick back and jam up when the reel spins more quickly than the fly line can be expelled. You can buy a reel with magnetic brakes, and this helps. However, adjusting the tension of the spool should be what you rely on. In order to properly adjust the tension for the reel, place the rod vertically and disengage the reel. Lighten the tension slowly until the lure starts to lower, then retighten a small amount. To cast a bait casting reel, disengage it and keep firm hold with your thumb. To let the line come out, loosen your thumb hold. Practicing is essential to controlling the cast of the reel, as the speed of the line is what controls your accuracy. Spinning reels. These reels have spools that remain still while the reel spins around the stationary center. The bail attached to the outside spins when the reel is cranked, winding the line neatly into place. Any line is suitable for this reel, but tried and true fishers will use light line and lures. A pro for this reel is the ability to outperform other reels in windy weather. The greatest con for this reel is how it twists the line. Once a line is twisted, it will become tangled and knotted. When this happens, get rid of it and replace the entire line. To help keep your line from getting tangled, soak it in a large cup of water 24 hours before your trip. When you cast this type of spinning reel, place the rod with the reel on the underside. Hold the rod grip with your middle finger in front of the bottom of the reel. Place the line in the inner curve of your pointer. To let line out, straighten your pointer, letting the line slide through. Hold your pointer near the spool when you cast, as this gives you the greatest control over the line and reel as you cast. To keep the reel from spinning, press your pointer on the edge of the reel. Spin cast reels, push button reels. These are the easiest reels to use and excellent for a beginner. In addition, most are suitable for all lines and lures of any weight, but keep in mind that you get what you pay for. They are completely covered with a spinning pickup pin that winds the line. Because they are closed face, the line is rarely tangled. To cast, press the trigger and hold, releasing the button when you want to sling the lure forward. Most spin cast reels can be used with any weight lure or line size. Tip number 8. Tie lasting knots. No knot can be trusted complicitly, but wetting your line before you tighten the knots can increase their strength and effectiveness. When tying a knot, be sure to pull it snug slowly, watch carefully for any weak spots, test every knot by pulling on it firmly. Adhering to these tips will keep a knot from coming undone and costing you the big one. Tip number 9. Fly line preservation. Fly lines are misleadingly fragile and can become damaged easily. Treading on it, not using a leader, and getting it caught between the reel and spool are all ways to mar your fly line. Be careful to protect your line from all of these and more. In addition, be aware of the other hazards, such as bug repellent, sunscreen, gasoline, and even line detergent. Tip number 10. Fly line washing. Your fly line must be clean to perform optimally. Regardless of where you fish, grime from the water will coat your line. This is caused by the algae of the area. Grime can build up, and a dirty line will cause friction in the guides, impeding your cast. One way to tell if your line is in need of a bath is to take note of how well it is floating. Dirty lines sink. To wash your line, purchase a cleaning cloth at a rod and tackle shop and clean with a couple of drops of gentle soap on the wet cleaning pad. Avoid detergents. Tip number 11. Fly line storage. When you are not using your fly line, keep it on the reel. Keep it out of direct sunlight or extreme heat. Also avoid chemicals and solvents. If your fly line becomes coiled through disuse, gently stretch it. Once it begins to give, you can rewind it for your next fishing trip. Tip number 12. Your fly line. What types? The most common types of fly lines are produced using nylon monofilament, but other current types are braided, fused, and co-filament lines. As with reels, you get what you pay for, and splurging the extra money for a premium type is worth the investment. When looking at what type to purchase, there are many different options. Looking at your fishing environments and kind of fish you intend to catch, can help narrow down the field. The strength of the line is very important and is listed in pounds, the amount of strain required to snap the fly line. These estimates tend to be on the lower side and can usually take a bit more weight than stated. You also will want to consider the abrasion resistance of a line. Fishing in a place with lots of rocks and debris will require a line that can stand up to such abuse. The diameter of your line should be considered in high abrasion areas, as the wider the line, the better it will fare. The width of your fly line has the ability to affect the cast, lure depth, visibility, and line elasticity. These are all important factors, and keep in mind, the smaller the line, the more difficult it will be for the fish to spot and spook away from it. A smaller line also endows a more realistic movement to the lure. The line's stretch and stiffness are related. The stretch fly lines are harder to break and are helpful in detecting bites and setting the fly. A stiff line, however, will be even more sensitive, though harder to cast. While we talked about the thinner lines being better to keep fish from spooking, it can be advantageous to have a highly visible line. This enables you to quickly spot any vibration that may point to a fish taking the bait. Tip number 13. Remove barbs from flies. Remove the barbs on your hook by pinching them down with a pair of pliers. This makes it easier to remove the hooks and is required in some catch and release areas. It also allows for easy removal of underwater snags, overhead tree branches, and angler fingers. Number 14. Which lures? There is a slew of different lures, but they are roughly divided into 5 groups. The first group is the spinnerbait. The most versatile, this lure can be used in any season, any water, and in any type of cover. It is the perfect all-around lure. The second group is the crankbait family. These lures are perfect for drawing fish out of deep pools since it can dive down. Use a medium-length rod for crankbaits. The third group is made of tube jigs. These little guys are made to be dropped in at a depth of more than 10 feet. They work best in clean water and can get you some action from otherwise uninterested lethargic fish. The next group is the vibrating lures. They consist of metal and plastic and sink very quickly. They vibrate vigorously, grabbing a fish's immediate attention when reeled back in and work well in deep water. The last group of lures we will feature is the jigging spoon group. A jigging spoon is a structure lure that works its magic on suspended fish like bass. It is wonderful in depths and inactive fish. Tip number 15. When to tie on a dry fly. The ideal time for dry flies is afternoon. This is the heat of the day, and the water will be heating up. This results in the insects' hatches that draw fish. Pay attention to the bugs that are hatching and flying and imitate them with your own dry fly. Tip number 16. Write it all down. Take a notebook and begin a log for your fishing excursions. Take notes of the temperature of the air and water. Note weather conditions. Look at the height and current of the water. Keep track of the kinds and sizes of your catches, and record the times you fished. Be sure also make a note of the troubles you encountered. In time, you will begin to see patterns, especially between environmental factors, like temperature and the problems catching fish. You can then change your fishing accordingly. This habit will help round out your fishing experience and make you an all-around better angler. Tip number 17. What you need to tie a fly. When you begin to tie flies, you need some basic equipment besides the fluff and feathers. Bobbin. This will keep the thread from unraveling while you are tying. Vise. This holds the hook for the fly while you're tying. Hackle pliers. These will enable you to easily pick up and hold the tiny and fragile. Needle point scissors. These are to cut and trim as needed. A bodkin. This is used to pick out any caught fibers or fur. Half-hitch tool. This is to assist in tying the half-hitch knot. Head cement. This doubles as a glue and finish. Tip number 18. Attaching the fly to the line. If you are having trouble attaching the fly to the tippet, find a solid background to place behind the fly. The sky often works well as it is one color, but any large expanse of a single color will work. Tip number 19. Wet fly use. When using a wet fly or submerged lure, deodorize it. To accomplish this, rub the fly with mud or water plant growth. This disguises any off-putting human odors and counteracts any chemical smells. Tip number 20. The eye of the rod. The eyes of your rod are also known as the guides. These are the round loops along the length of the rod that your fly line travels through. They also transmit the feeling from the end of the line to your hand, so you know that you have a fish on. Almost any rod you buy is going to have guides with metal outer rings, and an inner ring made of ceramic, gold aluminum oxide, silicon carbide, chrome, or plain aluminum oxide. The material is supposed to help eliminate friction and extend the life of your fly line. Check to be sure that none of your eyes are bent before leaving for a fishing trip. A marred guide will hamper the line. A dirty guide can cause the line to fray due to friction, so clean the inside loop of your guides. Once your guides are clean, inspect the wrapping that holds them to the rod. They must be intact and undamaged to keep the guides from coming loose. Tip number 21. Listening to others. Everyone has their own way of fishing that works best for them. It takes time to figure everything out, so be patient. Pick up tip and hints anywhere you can. Here are a few to get you started. Fish parallel to a weed flow, paying close attention to the edges. In thick growth, attempt a spinnerbait or crankbait. When fishing a fallen tree, fish parallels to the branches, not the trunk, and try not to ruffle the water any more than necessary. When fishing in a timber pileup, use a worm or jigging spoon to avoid unwanted tangles or snags. Be sure to fish an entire area, casting in every nook and cranny that may harbor a fish. Use multiple lures and keep the spot in mind for a different day. Don't let your attention stray from your lines. Reeling them in is the primary time when they are struck, and an attentive angler will be able to spot not only when a bait is taken, but when it is aimed for but missed by the fish. This is more common in cold weather. Do not make any unnecessary noise. The more sound you make, the more skittish the fish will be, and the less likely you are able to get a strike. In the autumn, cover the streams and coves. This is the hideout for the bait fish, and also the trophy fish who like to eat the bait fish. The degree at which you angle your rod plays a large part in your success when using a surface plug. Hold the plug more horizontally when the plug is close, and angle it towards the sky if the lure is further out. Tip number 22. Follow the leader. Many different leaders are available at rod and tackle stores. Alternatively, you can make them yourself with a little guidance from the internet or a good book. When purchasing a leader, take into account the type of fishing you will account for most of the line's time on the water. Saltwater ocean fishing requires a different line than freshwater stream fishing, for example. Tip number 23. Avoid snags. When fishing in fresh waters, Using a tapered leader can spare you the headache of getting caught on the freestanding structures or debris in the water. This is because it removes the knot that would be needed when tying a tippet to your line. Tip number 24. Little details are important. The changing of the season, as it brings changes in weather, temperature, and water volume, will affect the behavior of the fish. Reading the water is an important part of fly fishing. The more you fish, the better you will become at reading the water conditions. You will begin seeing patterns, such as feeding fish are more likely to be along the edges of a run of pools and medium pockets, and how inactive fish can still be enticed to take the lure if they are in a deep pool. The pH of your fishing hole has a large role in the health of the fish living here. pH is, in short, the amount of hydronium ions in a substance. This determines whether the substance is an acid or a base. This is measured with a 1 being a very acidic substance and a 14 being a very basic substance. 7 is the point at which a substance is neutral. Most fish can live in environments with a differing pH value because they can change their own pH level. They do this by adjusting the level of bases and acids using their breathing and urination. A fish breathing more quickly will purge more carbon dioxide from their bloodstream. This raises the internal acidity of the fish. While this is effective, it can be draining. A fish living in unbalanced waters will eventually be unable to manage its internal pH balance and ultimately die. Tip number 25. Below equals fish. Above equals snagged line. Before casting, observe what is around, both above and below the surface of the water. Fish like to gather near a structure or large submerged object. This could include a sunken log, large stones, or bridge pylon. This is where the fish will feed since they do not have to search hard for their food. Objects below the water are a good thing for fish. However, also observe what is above the water just as carefully. Trees, power lines, bridges, pedestrians, and other anglers are all hazards that need to be avoided. A tangled line or hooked people are things that can ruin anyone's fishing day. Tip number 26. Beat the heat. Your fly fishing season starts early in the year, right after winter. When the ice is melted, search out dark-colored bodies of water. These will heat faster than surrounding waterways and will gather bass and panfish. Most people in the U.S. night fish when the weather is very hot during the daylight hours, especially in the southeast and western states. In hotter weather, fish swim deeper to avoid the heat. However, these same fish swim to the shallow water at night to feed, usually eating crawdads. This is what makes night fishing worthwhile. When the fish cease biting during the heat of the day, usually when the water is above 60 degrees, it is time to night fish. The prime times for this kind of fishing is the 7 days surrounding the full and new moons. This means the 3 days prior, the day of, and the 3 days after. As with any kind of fishing, know the areas you are fishing and wear a life jacket. Tip number 27. Basic cast. When casting your line, you will move your rod on the vertical plane, going smoothly straight up and straight back down in front of you. Lift the rod swiftly. As soon as it is pointing to the sky, bring it to a graceful but sudden stop. This helps whip the line out behind you and gathers speeds for the forward cast. Gently bring the rod back to the front, using a snap of the wrist to bring the rod back to a 45-degree angle. This snap lends speed to the line, making it fall straight. As a beginning cast, aim for 10 feet out. Let the lure settle to the bottom and reel in after letting it sit for a bit. When the bait has been reeled in, begin again, but cast to the right of the original cast. Make your next cast to the left. Thoroughly cover the area in front of you. making cast further to the right or left each time. This method can be challenging at first, but also extremely rewarding for those who stick to fishing from the bank. If you are able to, wade in until the water is to your knees. Now cast parallels to the bank, using the same fanning techniques. This increases your chance of success. Another way to increase your chance of catching a fish is to blend into the surrounding environment. Use smooth and shallow movements and step quietly. Wear clothing that camouflages your silhouette. Tip number 28. Storms. As on any body of water, storms can be a real threat to a fly fisher. A storm by itself is no reason to run for cover, even when the wind comes all of a sudden and the rain is pouring. When it shows signs of turning into a thunderstorm, you should head for a safe place. If there is any chance of flash floods, head for higher ground. And at the first rumble of thunder, pack up and move out. A storm can be advantageous because smaller fish will come into the shallow water to feed on the bits the wind kicks up. Fishing from the shore in a storm can be fruitful during this time. However, the larger fish will remain in deep water. Tip number 29. Do unto others, and so forth. No matter where you fish, the most important rule is to leave the area as good or better than you found it. The golden rule of do unto others as you would have them do unto you holds true in fly fishing, whether on shore or in a boat. This means keeping your distance and not encroaching on any anglers already established in or on the water. Be respectful to anglers of all kinds, regardless of the style or fishing they employ. Also, be aware of the direction in which they are casting. Another rule to follow is to always keep a secret. If someone is gracious enough to share a secret spot with you and asks you to keep it that way, oblige. As with any other pastime, it should be practiced legally. Do not trespass on any property. Obtain permission, written if possible, to access any water on private lands, such as ponds. Be sure you are in possession of the proper fishing licenses. There are freshwater licenses and also trout stamps. Take the time to make sure you are fishing legally. Obtain a copy of the current rules and regulations for your area. This will tell you how you may fish, where you may fish, and what you may fish. Abide by all limits. Tip number 30. Casting. Roll cast. A roll cast is used when you have little room or are casting into a headwind. When performing a roll cast, don't pull your rod straight up. Pull it to the side, drawing the line out of the water. Leave the leader and tippet in the water and flick the line back upstream. When performed correctly, the line will roll upstream and the tip with a flip at the last moment, resulting in a straightening of the line. Tip number 31. Casting. Reach cast. Reach casting is used to get the fly to the other side of water that has different speeds in the current. Cast your line to the far left or far right of your aim. The reach cast gives you a great reach of distance, hence the name, and prevents the lure from being swept downstream water in the faster flowing current. Tip number 32. Casting. Slack line cast. When using a slack line cast, the line is laid out in the water in a series of gentle curves, resembling an S. This is valuable when trying to present a fly with no line dragging on it. Put it into practice when casting downstream over a current. Tip number 33. Casting. Shooting line cast. To perform this cast, put some oomph behind the forwards arc and backwards arc of the cast. This shoots out more line and allows your cast to reach further out. Tip number 34. Study the prey. Many fishing excursions will require you to use your eyes to spot the likeliest fishing spots. This applies in particular to small narrow bodies of water, like a stream or tailwater. In places where stealth is to your advantage, examine the place thoroughly to find the best place to cast. Take special note of any shadows, rises, and flashes that indicate the presence of fish. Once you have found the fish, you can cast to them with precision. Tip number 35. Haul the line. You can haul on the line to increase its speed. In order to perform this, grasp the line below the lowest guide of the fly rod. It takes a little bit of experimentation to get the feel of it, but by pulling on the line during the upward stroke of the cast, and then releasing at the correct time, you can increase the speed. As you progress, you can also pull on the back and forward strokes to get even more power. Tip number 36. Mend the line. To mend a line, use a quick flip of the wrist to roll any line that is floating downstream faster than the fly back upstream. This keeps your line straight and tangle-free and prevents any unwanted drag on the line. The technique of mending the line is when you reposition your fly line and leader on top of moving water. Tip number 37. Tippet length versus water depth. When fishing, keep in mind how far down the fish are located. This will determine how long your tippet needs to be. Deep fish need a longer tippet to present the lure at their level. If the fish are in shallower water, shorten the tippet. Tip number 38. Full flex rods. A full flex rod is super easy to cast, but it is too bendy to give to a novice angler. A rod like this is also known as a slow action rod and is not suitable for big catches. The butt is not made to hold up against a large fish. However, it is a cheap option and with practice makes a great choice. Tip number 39. He was here first. Going back to the golden rule, if a spot is already being fished, give it a wide berth. Finders keepers applies, and the original angler always retains the right of way, regardless of if you are on foot or in a boat. Check with the fisher to find out if your intrusion is allowed. If a change of locations is required, move upstream, not down. Tip number 40. Another angler's hooked fish. When another fish has been hooked, remove your line from the water to keep the lines from being tangled and give the angler room to land the catch. This is an unspoken rule. Do not get in the way of another angler, especially when they are landing or letting a fish go. Tip number 41. Peace and harmony. Anglers fish to gain peace and quiet as much as to catch fish. Keep this in mind and comply by being as quiet as possible. No talking on the phone or listening to music. Not only does this show respect to your fellow anglers, but keeps you from spooking any fish. Tip number 42. Help your neighbor. Lend a hand whenever possible when fishing. If you are downstream, be ready to scoop up anything floating away from them. Offering to help net their fish can be another way to help out, as can be giving them a needed supply. Tip number 43. Safe wading. While wading can be a way to access otherwise inaccessible place, it can be dangerous if you slip and your waders fill with water. This weighs you down and prevents you from coming to the surface for air. To avoid this danger, always use a wading belt. In addition, never wade above your knees in any remote waterways when alone. A reliable pair of boots with a good sole and a wading staff can help you from slipping. Know the area you intend to wade. Tip number 44. How to organize fishing stuff. It is easy to become overwhelmed with masses of tangled fishing stuff. A tackle box can help. I recommend using 2 or even more boxes, but keep them purposely small. Give them each a specific job, such as holding only the plastic worms. Keeping all soft plastic lures away from the other lures is a must. Soft baits can cause a chemical reaction when exposed to the materials of other lures. Another trick is to divide your tackle box by season. Use one for jigs, minnows, and worms. Use another for topwaters and crankbaits. Tip number 45. Iconic outer attire. The vest is an iconic piece of the fishing wardrobe. Do not let it become loaded down with non-essentials. Organize it carefully and only take exactly what you need. Tip number 46. The staff. If you plan on fishing in an area that is not familiar, use a wading staff. This gives you an extra advantage when traversing unknown waterways. Tip number 47. Wading boots. Wading boots should not only be comfortable, but offer you support and stability. They should lace up the ankle and have soles that grip the riverbed. I recommend rubber soles as they allow for the best purchase on a variety of water bottoms. Check with regulations when buying boots that have a felt sole, as some states have banned this to help stop the spread of parasitic plants and animals. Tip number 48. Sunscreen. Seemingly unimportant, bring along sunscreen. Water will reflect the sunlight back at you, magnifying the rays. A full day on the water will make you glad you remembered to lather up. Reapply the sunscreen according to the directions on the bottle or tube. Tip number 49. Polarization. Wear a pair of glasses that have been polarized. Polarized glasses and sunglasses reduce the glare off the water, enabling you to see the fish beneath the surface. A hat can further increase your ability to see beneath the waves. Tip number 50. Avoid being an insect's dinner date. Flies, gnats, and mosquitoes are attracted to black and white clothing. They are also drawn to red, yellow, and dark blue. Avoid wearing clothes made in these colors. Tip number 51. Weather and layers. Dress for success when it comes to the weather. Check the forecast and prepare accordingly. Pack a slicker for rain and wear layers. An extra layer can be stripped off, but a layer you didn't bring can never be put on. Tip number 52. Simplicity. Simplicity should be your byword when fishing. Use only a couple of small tackle or fly boxes. Fish them religiously. And replace flies only as needed. Bring only one type of line. Many anglers prefer only floating line. Don't try a new fly every few casts. Fish your fly for at least 30 to 60 casts before changing. Applying this technique will keep you from getting too antsy, teach you patience, and bring you success. Tip number 53. Essentials. As with any sport, hobby, and activity, there is equipment that is necessary and equipment that is not essential. Let's go over the items that you should bring on every trip. A reliable rod and reel are a must, as is the assortment of flies you will use. In addition, pack a first aid kit, rain slicker or poncho, sunscreen, hat, and wear layers. Avoid hoisting around an overflowing tackle box with every bait, fly, and lure that you own. Lines you will not be using that day, a rod or reel that is unsuitable to that trip's fishing goals. Tip number 54. Size matters. When using flies, the size really does matter. When the waters are high in the autumn and spring, use big flies. When the water levels drop during the hot season, use little flies. Stocking up on flies during the off-season is a great idea. Taking the downtime to tie a few flies of various size and pattern can really pay off when the time to fish comes around again. Tip number 55. Moody salmon. Salmon are peculiar. They are either in the zone, striking anything and everything you throw their way, or they will not be enticed to take anything you try to offer them. Tip number 56. Striking salmon. Salmon do not eat in the river. At least, this is not their main objective while there. They can't help but occasionally strike a moving object that looks like food. Salmon in a lake, however, will be feeding. They are on the prowl and aggressive in their strikes. As they head upriver, this instinct continues, allowing you to get some good catches, even when the fish thinks it is done eating. Tip number 57. Tough salmon. Salmon have notoriously sharp jaws. Take the time to sharpen all hooks before any salmon fishing excursions. This allows them to hook as deeply as possible when the fish bites. Tip number 58. Tag team salmon. When fishing for salmon, a partner can be invaluable. Both you and your partner should wear polarized lens and take turns when watching the fish. The person watching should be on the other bank, preferably higher up to see exactly where the fish are located, and relay the information to a person holding the rod. Tip number 59. Hold up salmon. Take the time to seek out the perfect spot for your fishing time. It is worth the effort to find a place where there is an abundance of fish, as a place like this can keep you content for a long time. Tip number 60. Cool salmon. Salmon like days that have low light, so fish in early morning and late evening, or use cloud cover when available. Bright light will drive the fish into deeper water. This increases the challenge of catching one. Knowing the water temperature is important on any salmon trip. A reliable thermometer can enable you to accurately record the weather conditions throughout the days, weeks, and months. Write down every reading and compile them in one place, like a notebook. This allows you to note the patterns of the waterways you are fishing. Knowing the patterns of your fishing spot can determine what rod, reel, line, and fly to use. When recording the temperature, choose one place for every reading, and lower down the thermometer to the same depth every time. This can be between 6 inches to 3 feet down. Salmon need cool water to thrive. If the water gets too warm, they will find a deep place with cooler water. Cooler water contains more oxygen, contributing to the salmon's well-being. Be aware that a happy medium between cold and hot water will be ideal. This is because salmon fight more vigorously to be free in cold water but do not strike in warm water. Tip number 61. Where are salmon? When fishing for salmon, look for them in deep, cold pools of water, where the water is dark. They prefer these places due to the increased oxygen. You should also closely examine any places where the river bends, as this can be a favorite hangout. In general, these fish prefer places with a quickly moving top current and slow undercurrent. The temperature and the light will determine whether the fish swim upriver or downriver. Don't worry about following the rules about when to fish and when to not fish. Any day fishing is a good day. Fishing when you have the time can come with its advantages. For example, you will gain more experience when fishing in every kind of weather and lighting than the angler who only goes fair weather fishing. This knowledge is invaluable, as you will take it with you into every fly fishing situation. You will need to practice casting into the wind, and also how to avoid stumbling on the rocks and debris on the bottom when you can't see your feet due to waves or murkiness. Adapting to the changing weather is a valuable asset to have, and without it, you may go without the catch on which your hopes were set. Tip number 62. Snagged salmon flies. We have already covered the salmon's affinity for deep, dark holes. But be aware that these holes are prime places to snag your line and fly. Before you find yourself losing too many flies, take some time to access the hole before you start fishing. Find a high spot, if you can, and use your polarized glasses to look down into the depths to see if you can spot any snags. Another trick is to use a fly that you don't mind losing and send it into the hole to see what happens. Tip number 63. Tail and neck salmon. Salmon like to bunch up in the necks of pools. However, they can also be found in large groups at the tail end, so be sure to cover both locations. Tip number 64. Patience with salmon. One of the big mistakes novice fly fishers make has to do with their lack of patience. You can't fish for salmon quickly. Other fish are more easily caught, but a salmon spot needs to be worked over with more methodical and slow movements. Tip number 65. Short rod for trout. A short rod is very best for trout. Between 8 and 9.5 feet is a good range, though much shorter ones can be useful in hard-to-reach mountain streams, and longer ones can be better for large lakes. Choose the rod that best fits the venue you are fishing, as a short rod cannot get the line out where you need it when distance is needed, and a long rod cannot make precisely aimed casts in a narrow stream in the woods. Tip number 66. Floating line for trout. When trying to catch this particular fish, there is an abundance of options. A novice should begin with a floating line. They are easier to catch and manipulate. Tip number 67. Which fly for trout? To know which fly to use can be a very simple decision. If the fish are rising to the top of the water to feed, use a dry fly. If the fish are presenting their tails as they feed on the bottom, use a wet fly. Tip number 68. Fly changes for trout. Fish are persnickety, but you should give the pattern you are using a fighting chance before changing to another. Wait a while before changing, 15 minutes if you can. If they do not take this fly, wait again. Adhere to this strategy until you begin catching fish with a particular fly. Tip number 69. Habits of trout. The most important concept of fishing is the idea that the fish don't come to you. You have to approach them, especially trout. However, they are predictable to a fault. Rainbows will be found in groups. Brown trout will be loners that guard a particular territory. If you are fishing for trout in a lake, know that the lakes at higher altitudes will be a bit more challenging. This is because of the lack of vegetation and abundance of rocks. The water will be clearer and the fish more skittish due to the lack of cover that trout tend to favor. However, if there are any trout in the lake, they will most likely be worth our while, large in size and employing the deep, clear water. Even those anglers who own a boat still often fish from the bank. If you plan to bank fish, find a suitable place along the water's edge. Try to find a slope of about 30 degrees, running into the water gradually. Aim for a section of water that is at least 5 feet deep, and no deeper than 15. A slope of more than 45 degrees, and you'll have trouble maintaining your balance and staying in one place. In addition, trout favor gradual slopes, and large numbers will frequent this environment. Finding a slope with underwater vegetation will be even more likely to hold trout. Use a spinnerbait when on a bank. Put a weight on the line above the lure. About 8 to 12 inches should work well. You can also use a crankbait. Do not try a jig in this habitat, as it gets tangled up frequently. When bank fishing, use a vest instead of a tackle box. It frees up your hands and still allows you to carry all the necessities with you, handy and organized. Tip number 70. Touching the trout. Most of the time you will want to avoid handling your fish. Trout have a thin coating of slime that protects their delicate skin. Any human touch disturbs it and can throw the microbiomes out of balance. It is not common for a caught trout to grow fungi on the spots that were touched, leading to the death of the fish. To release a trout, all you need to do is take the fly out of the jaw, allowing the trout to swim free without any human intervention. Smaller pliers and forceps can be very helpful to remove a stubborn hook. If you catch a trophy trout and desire pictures, be as gentle as possible. Touch the fish as little as possible, and keep it out of the water for the shortest possible time. Tip number 71. Trout CPR. When releasing a fish, do not let it go free until it is completely revived. Prior to releasing a trout, make sure it is completely revived. An exhausted fish, or one that has been stunned by extended time out of the water, will need a little extra care. These fish will roll over and turn upside down. Keep in mind that the bigger the fish, the longer the recovery time. Smaller fish often need no extra attention. If your fish appears not to be doing well, hold it upright in your hands. Try to find a flow of water that is quite gentle. You want just enough flowing water to get its gills working again, so it can regain oxygen. You can also pass the fish back and forth in the water as a sort of artificial aqua CPR. Once it begins to come around, the fish will regain its strength and swim away unaided. Tip number 72. Where to find stream trout. Being able to accurately read a body of water helps you catch fish. The most commonly found pattern in a river or stream is a riffle, then a run, then a deep pool. The pattern is recurring along the entire length of most running waterways to some degree. In the riffle, you find small trout in the day and larger specimens come morning and evening as they come to feed. The runs will contain small brown trout and rainbows. In the pools, you will encounter large brown trout. Do not pass by a stream to fish a larger lake or river. This can be a grave error. Cold water streams are a viable option for any fly fisher. Trout especially inhabit these environments because of the deep pools that catch the food washed down by the rapids. They also thrive in the cover of the undercut in the bank. The water here still moves, but it is much calmer. Tip number 73. Riffle. A riffle is a current that moves very quickly but is very shallow. The stream or riverbed of a riffle will have gravel, boulders, and rubble. This is the place to find feeding fish come morning and evening. Tip number 74. Runs. A run is like a riffle, only with greater depth. They also have slower but more powerful currents. A run usually lies betwixt a riffle and a pool. The stream or riverbed of a riffle will contain a mixture of smaller rubble, usually small gravel. Trout enjoy this habitat at all times of the day. Tip number 75. Where to find pool and lake trout. A pool is a deep spot of water. A pool can be identified by its dark water. The current in a pool will be slow, smooth, and deep. The stream bottom or riverbed will be covered in fine material such as silt, sand, and fine gravel. This is where the biggest fish hide in the middle of the day, as well as quite a few medium-sized specimens. Lakes offer many different fishing experiences. They can offer a great harvest or just a fair one. Often the location of the body of water will determine the outcome. Do your research and find a lake that fits your bill. Not every lake is deep. Some of the southern U.S. has lakes that are very shallow. Natural lakes that are diminutive in size are usually round. Fish the edges, in vegetation, and rocky areas near the shore. Big lakes will be prime places for large groups of trout, especially up north. Places like islands, flows, and deep pools are great places to look. Be aware that though some northern lakes offer great fishing, others are uninhabitable. The lack of algae and plankton means a significant loss of oxygen, resulting in extremely clear but fishless waters. Tip number 76. Trout IQ. Fish are smarter than we first realized, and trout are among the smartest. They can remember the solution to a maze for 9 months and can certainly remember which paths and trail leads anglers to their water. They recognize movement in these places is a threat and treat it accordingly. They will be skittish and spooky, refusing to strike. Do not come to your fishing area from the expected angle, but use a different approach for each occasion you visit the spot. There are new studies out that show trout can easily learn to navigate a maze, and they can remember the pattern for about 9 months. This means that in streams that are heavily fished, trout quickly learn that movements on certain paths towards and around the pools is an indication of danger. The trout will scare more easily since they know the pattern of approaching fly fishers. What does this mean for you? Avoid approaching the same pool from the same direction. Instead, find different angles of approach every time you fish in that area. Not only should you be careful in your approach of a fishing spot, but you should also take into account that the fish's sense of feeling and hearing are basically the same thing. They can sense vibrations from both movement and sound, feeling and hearing them like a radar. They also know the natural sounds of their environment and quickly detect any unusual sound or disturbance in the water. Not only are the fish's sense of feeling and hearing connected, but they also smell and taste the same way. Trout are able to taste with the outside of their jaws as well as the inside of their mouths. Because of this, any bait, lure, or fly must be pleasing to the fish's palate, or it will not make it into the mouth. Anything unpleasant, if not rejected outright, will be spat out immediately. Tip number 77. Gold trout. Trout prefer cold water, so come summer, when the water temperature rises, these fish will swim to deep, cool pools. The water will be not only colder, but also will have a greater amount of oxygen available for breathing. Trout kept in warm water lack oxygen, and their bodies become strained. However, once summer is about to end, the trout will migrate to the riffle of their area, no matter how shallow. Be very sneaky in your advance. Fish upstream, letting the fly float to the most funneled area of the stream's riffle. Fish the entire riffle thoroughly before moving on. Rivers are the best environment in which a trout can thrive. There is an abundance of oxygen that is available in shallow and deep waters. They are also not subject to the same temperature fluctuations found in a lake. The water in a river tends to be colder in the summer and hotter in the winter than other bodies of water. Tip number 78. Rising trout. Once you have identified how the fish are feeding, you can accurately choose a fly to present to them. The way a fish feeds is called its rise. There are many different rises, and you can learn them all. Some are very easy to spot, like a splashy rise. This rise shows fish coming to the surface to snatch mayflies, caddisflies, stoneflies, and rising pupa. This is when you will see a fish jump out of the water. When fish are presenting with head rises, it means that they are putting their heads above the water to feed on the surface, sticking only the head out. They are eating mayfly, stonefly, and caddisfly adults. A dorsal fin and tail rise shows the trout are feeding just below the surface and will probably ignore any surface flies. Sip rises are characterized by rings on the surface. This is from a fish opening its mouth to suck spent spinners and duns to eat. The rises can be very obvious or very inconspicuous. A splashy surge shows a fish that is pursuing prey into shallow water. They are usually whitebait or smelt. Tip number 79. Hiding and seeking with trout. Look for trout under banks in undercuts. They prefer these areas due to the protection from predators. They like to stay along the edges of a stream. The swimming is easier here due to the friction of the bank, slowing the current. This is also the best place to use a woolly bugger. You can cast across the creek if the current and width allow. Aim upstream so your fly and leader can land close to the bank and almost parallel to it. Aim for as close as possible to the undercut. Roll cast and keep your line running alongside the bank, not perpendicular to it. By keeping your line downstream, your fly will follow the natural current. The fly will now be pulled along the bank in front of any of the hidden and spooky trout. Another favorite place for specimens to hide is around the river bars. And the bends of your rivers are another favorite place for these fish. The peaceful water attracts them. Tip number 80. To remember, use lists. In order to remember all the things you should not forget about fishing, write them down. The back of an envelope works just as well as a specific notebook. Consider what information will be the most useful for you to remember in the long run. You can write down a growing list of the biggest fish you have caught to date, the patterns you mean to tie or buy, the best secret fishing spots, and the things you keep forgetting to bring, like sunscreen. Tip number 81. Venture forth. Find a local guiding service and pay for a trip. This can be an invaluable experience as it gives you one-on-one with someone who is an expert. Ask questions and observe how the guide handles certain situations and conditions. Even an international fly fishing trip can bring you gained wisdom, as well as some unforgettable memories. Tip number 82. In the shadow of the dam. While the waters below a dam are wonderful for fish, they can be extremely dangerous. You must take the time to look up when the dam opens. The sudden release of water could easily drown any angler who is wearing waders. Listen carefully for the warning alarm before they open the sluice gates, usually a whistle or horn. Tip number 83. Ensure more catches. An unspoken rule in any kind of fishing is that if you have not netted or held the fish, it doesn't count as a catch. There is a trick to help ensure that you actually catch more fish. Fish upstream every chance you get. Fishing upstream is almost always better than downstream, as the current will work in your favor, bringing the fish to you and lessening your chance of the hook coming loose if he fights. Once hooked, stay downstream of the trout. This way, the current of the river will be bringing him closer, and any time he tries to swim away, the fish will be swimming against the current. Tip number 84. Find your tribe. There are many groups of anglers who share your passion and enthusiasm for fly fishing. You can find these by asking around your local fly shop or rod and tackle store. There are official clubs and unofficial fly tying get-together in someone's den. People in your area can give you insider tips and secrets that cannot be compared to the information you find with a generic internet search. Find a few people to fish with, or just swap tall tales. You won't regret it. Tip number 85. Nets are not invisible. If you choose to use a net, remember the fish have very good eyesight and senses of feeling and touch. As good as their other senses are, fish rely heavily on their eyesight, regardless of water clarity and color. If they cannot see, they will use their other highly attuned senses, but this is rare. They can see in the dark as well as in the light, and their eyes naturally adjust to various lighting conditions and levels. Because of this, do not hold the net straight up and down in the water. No fish will naturally saunter straight into a presented net, and scooping the fish up from behind will only trigger the instinct for it to bolt forward at top speed. The way you want to net a fish is simple. Lay the net flat on the stream bed, keeping hold of the handle. Maneuver the trout over the top, and then lift straight up and out of the water. Tip 86. Storage rods. In order to keep your rod in good working order, you need to keep it in storage the correct way. This is to place it in its sock and store it in a hard plastic or metal tube. This protects the rod from any inadvertent damage while it is being stored. Before storing, clean the rod thoroughly. All salt must be removed and never store a wet or damp rod. If your rod requires cleaning, wash in warm water that contains a few drops of mild soap. Do not use anything rough to scrub it. A soft cloth will work well. Clean every part of the rod, including the rod guides, feet, cork grip, and reel. To rinse, use warm water. Keeping the rod clean and stored properly will ensure a long life for it. Tip number 87. Storage reels. Just like storing a rod, a reel needs to be stored properly. This means covered with a soft cloth or in a case. Covering a reel prevents any unwanted dirt, dust, or grit from working its way into the spool and inner workings. This also keeps the outside from getting scuffed or marred. If you do find a scuff or scratch, coat with a layer or two of fingernail polish. This will keep the reel from further damage and corroding. Use clear or a color that matches. Tip number 88. Keep to fair weather fishing. When you are a novice, try not to go fishing on days that are windy. There is nothing worse than being tangled in your own line due to a strong headwind while you are still learning to cast. Windy days take time and practice to master, and you may want to stick to fair weather fishing for a while. Feel free to test out your skills in the wind, but trying them out before you get out on the water can save a wasted trip. Tip number 89. Don't do anything. While much emphasis is put on the action of casting the part of fishing, it really is a game of patience. Your mind may be busy planning, preparing, and analyzing, but most of the actual fishing is waiting and soaking up the peace and quiet. Don't rush around when fishing, and don't get frenzied or frustrated. It takes time and plain luck sometimes. That's why it's called fishing and not catching. Tip number 90. Nymphs. The spring fly. The spring, especially early in the season, the best fly to use will be the nymph. There are many different nymph patterns to choose from. Which one will be the right one? Ask around and see what the fish in your area are biting. You can also double up, putting 2 flies on your line, using 2 different patterns, and be sure not to get tangled with the other one when releasing your fish. Tip number 91. Again, patience pays off. The longer your fly is in the water, the greater your chance a fish will take it. A bonus strike is always wanted, and leaving your line in the water helps your chances. After your line has drifted downstream, let your fly, wet or dry, flow with the current for a bit, as long as a minute. Then cast again, and leave it again. This ensures more time in the water. Tip number 92. Fish are fragile. While we have already covered the delicate film that covers a fish, you should be aware that other parts of the fish are also very sensitive. This includes their mouth, eyes, and gills. Avoid touching these areas and be as careful as possible when removing a hook. And always remove the hook if at all possible. Be careful when placing your hands on any part of the jaw or in the mouth, as many fish have teeth or rough abrasive patches. Tip number 93. Light backgrounds. Light-colored rocks and river bottoms will increase your success when fly fishing. White is even better if you can find a place. The light-colored bottom of a river, stream, or lake will make your lure stand out. The contrasting colors will draw the attention of hungry fish, often resulting in a bite. Tip number 94. Hunters prefer the cover of darkness. Large fish that hunt smaller fish often prefer low light settings. They hunt primarily in the morning, evening, night, and cloud-covered days. Knowing this, plan your fishing trips accordingly. These predators will be less cautious and more likely to take whatever is thrown in front of them during these times. Tip number 95. Extra hints. When you are a novice angler, you'll want to focus on gaining experience. One way to improve your catch-to-cast ratio is to place 2 lures on a single fishing line. This works best in deep water with good visibility. It also works well when presenting the lures up and down instead of drawing them sideways in front of the fish. Be sure you tie the hooks on the line with one at the bottom and another a few feet higher up. Attach a bell sinker for best results. Sometimes you will want to gain the fish's attention by exploiting both their vision and hearing. Using a small blade spinner to do this. You can place a small spinner on the back of a lightweight jig. This works best in cold waters. If you are cramped for space while fishing, try casting two-handed to pitch the lure out. Grab the lure with your left hand, paying special attention to keeping your fingers and palm clear of the hooks. Pull back and down on this until the rod tip begins to bend. Now let go of the lure and extend the rod towards the target at the same time. This should sling the lure in a low movement toward your target area. Another trick to use is a minnow-shaped plug. These little guys will float suspended in the water, darting above the bottom exactly like a little fish when you flick and twitch your rod and line. Tip number 96. Shh. Tread lightly when fishing. Do not wear shoes that will be loud on the river bottom and rocks. Fish will sense you as a threat more readily by your sounds and vibrations than they will by sight. Keep this in mind when buying wading boots and when walking around and in your fishing spot. Tip number 97. Basic lingo. When beginning to fly fish, the lingo and jargon can be confusing. You will get more enjoyment when talking with other anglers if you understand what everyone is talking about. It also is imperative when taking advice from someone. Here are some fly fishing words every novice should learn. Flies. Flies come in both wet and dry varieties. They are lightweight, usually tied by hand, and can be used for many different fish, with the most popular being trout, salmon, and carp. Leaders. Leaders consist of a tapered piece of monofilament that attaches to the end of your fly line. It is thin and clear and allows you to tie flies to the end of a fly line that otherwise would be too thick. Plug. Plugs are a type of lure. They usually have more than one hook hanging from the underside. They are made to look like a small fish and can be manipulated with twitches of the line to look like an injured bait fish. Spinners. Spinners are small metal ovals that have spinning hooks attached to the back end. Spinners are used in conjunction with lures being attached to the back end. Tippet. The tippet is used to preserve the tapered end of a leader. It is made of clear monofilament, just like the leader. It keeps the leader from being consumed in bits, as flies are tied on and cut off to tie a new fly on the end of the line. Woolly bugger. an ugly fuzzy fly that doesn't look particularly like any living creature. It is simple, with flowing feathers at the back. Despite its appearance, it has proven its worth and is a popular choice for fly fishing. Tip number 98. You are not in control. It is possible to fool all of the fish some of the time, and some of the fish all of the time. It is, however, well nigh impossible to fool all of the fish all of the time. Sometimes you catch something, sometimes you don't. You can have the right rod, the right reel, the right line, and the right fly, and still not have a fish to show for it, even if your casting is spot on. You will get lucky and find some days where the fish go for anything, regardless of whether it should work or not. The more often you fish, the luckier you'll be. Tip number 99. Smoked trout. Smoked trout is a delicacy, and smoked salmon even more so. I recommend the salmon with crackers and a sharp cheddar or a creamy Gouda. Smoked fish will take the flavor of the smoke much better if the exposed surface is allowed to dry a bit first. Salt the fish and lay it out on the rack overnight. Make sure it is in a place that is cool, dry, and out of reach of any pests or pets. Smoking can be very messy, but aluminum foil can be your best friend during this process. For hassle-free cleanup, place sheets of tin foil along the inside of the bottom of the smoker. Put wood shavings on the aluminum foil. Do not over or under smoke the fish, and aim for around 8 hours. After the smoking process is over, remove all ash and drippings by rolling the foil up and disposing of it. Using foil keeps cleanup to a minimum. Tip number 100. Overcoming challenges. Just like when you leave the fly in the water at the end of a cast, don't be too eager to remove your fly from the water to fish somewhere else. And definitely don't be too eager to move up or downstream either. Take your time. Fish one spot thoroughly and methodically. In addition, don't change flies just because the first 10 casts didn't yield a result. Your fish may be just about to bite that nymph when you suddenly switch to a woolly bugger, only to tie on a caddisfly 2 minutes later. Take a moment and assess your situation. What time of day is it? How warm is the water? What are the fish actually doing? What kind of fish do you think are in your waters? These are all things that should have your attention, especially when you are not catching any fish. Your recorded patterns can also help. Refer back to it if you are able to find a day like your current one and look at what worked. Try that for at least 35 casts. Observe the rises of the fish and set your pattern accordingly. Don't use a wet fly if they are presenting in a splashy rise. Be flexible in your plans. Morning and evening are typically the best times to fish, but this is not always the case. Even storms and wind can bring unexpectedly successful fishing days. Be ready to change your strategy, but not your resolve. Bright, hot days will bring the most challenges. Fish will be holed up in deep, dark holes, able to spot you long before you spot them. You will need to be very sneaky and take your time coming up to the water at these times. Or you could opt for a longer cast than usual, keeping you out of the sight line of the fish. Or you may come up with another winning strategy. Fishing favors the creative, as well as the knowledgeable. Remember, the more challenging the day of fishing, the more satisfying your catches will be. Don't give up.